hit subscribe. Subscribe to my guy, Uncle D. Tell him Big Bass sent you.
Spurling. I'm an attorney here in Houston, Texas, an advocate for black men, largely because I am a black man. I'm a black father, I have black sons. Hey man, I do what I do. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the broadcast. My name is Dennis Spurling, and I'd like to welcome you to the Dennis Spurling broadcast. Big shout out to Mr. Sharonda Sowell. Welcome, and thank you for joining the membership. Now, look, every few months, another controversy erupts over representation. And this time, the target isn't Hollywood, it's not corporate America or some Fortune 500 company. The target is Kai Cenat, okay? Now, he's one of the biggest content creators in the world, and you have a lot of Latino content creators that are mad at Kai Cenat because according to him, or according to them, there weren't enough Latinos selected to attend Streamer University. All right, now Kai Cenat is being criticized because not because Latinos were completely banned, but because there weren't enough Latinos. Now, Kai Cenat is one of the most successful young black entrepreneurs in the world. Carlos Cenat III was born on December 16th, 2001 in New York City, which means that as of this broadcast, he's a young brother, about 24 years old. He began uploading comedy videos, pranks, and challenges to YouTube way back in January 2018. And Streaming University is a multi-day content creation experience in which he helps aspiring streamers, YouTubers, TikTok personalities, and comedians, gamers, musicians, and all sorts of other digital creators. He brings them together on a college-style campus or college campus, and they're assigned roles as students, professors, club directors, security guards, janitors, and other characters normally associated with university life. And they attend different workshops, and they create content, they participate in challenges, and they build relationships, they collaborate on live streams, and they learn how to attract audiences and develop a brand, monetize their content, and use the streaming technology, and potentially turn social media into a full-time career, okay? And so the first Streamer University was held May 22nd, and it went from Thursday to a Monday, from basically May 22nd, 2025, and they did it at the University of Akron in Akron, Ohio. It involved about 200 different creators. They produced about 23 million hours of live stream content, and now Kai Cenat has returned with Streaming University in 2026, and after revealing more than 100 members of the new class on Monday, July 6th, 2026, you had a lot of Latino creators and Latinos in general angry because they didn't believe they believe he didn't select enough Latinos. Okay. Now, immediately after that July 6th announcement, you had complaints beginning to spread amongst Latinos and Latino creators. And they looked at the more than 100 students and they said, hey, it's not enough for us. All right. Now, let me say this. There's nothing wrong with saying, I believe this particular person is talented. Or should I say, I believe this particular person was talented enough to be selected. There's a major difference between saying, I wish more Latinos had been chosen, and suggesting that Kai Cenat did something wrong because he didn't select what they felt or considered was the correct number or kind of Latino, somebody type kind of Latino. That first statement is disappointment. All right, they weren't good enough. The second statement assumes entitlement, and Kai Cenat didn't create the United States Department of Education. Okay, Streaming University is a private entertainment creator developed project built around Kai Cenat's name, money, business relationships, audience, resources, and reputation. This is his concept. He accepted the financial risk. He assembled a production team. He brought the audience. He attracted the sponsors. He developed a relationship with the celebrities and established creators. He made streaming Univerity valuable in the first place. Okay. Now, here's the thing you have to understand. We don't have an official admissions memorandum for why Streamer University excluded all these specific Latino applicants, okay, or rejected them. We don't know, right? Why specifically, okay? Why they rejected. However, word on the street is because a lot of these Latino podcasters and streamers, they use the N-word in their streams a lot. Somebody type N-word in the chat room, okay? And so it would be foolish to pretend that a creator's old broadcast and racial language is divisive as the N-word, and their online reputation wouldn't be relevant to the selection process. Now, Mr. Cenat is admitting them into a program that is carrying his name. It's going to be funded, right, through his relationships, and it's going to be watched by millions of people. Selections gives an applicant legitimacy, publicity, business contracts, mentorship, right? Housing, exposure, what appears to and it's all under this man's name. It basically gets his stamp of approval. And once Kai selects somebody, the internet begins investigating. Somebody type investigating in the chat room, okay? And once you start investigating, people search all your old stuff, every old stream, every deleted video, every offensive joke, okay? Every reckless rant, every racial insult, every moment the creator thought nobody important was watching. Someone can spend years building a small audience and watch the entire career collapse in 24 hours because of an old clip that reached millions of people. And one old stream can end a short career. And if Cenat admits a white Latino creator whose broadcasts contain repeated casual use of the N-word, the backlash won't stop with the creator. People will ask what kind of vetting Cenat performed on these people, and they'll ask why a black entertainer gave a person permission or the platform, knowing that was their record, or at least he should have known. And they'll ask why Streaming University rewarded someone who openly used language that Black Americans consider deeply offensive. And they'll ask whether Kai learned anything from his own controversy with Foundation of Black Americans. Because at one point, the scandal belongs to, but at that point, the scandal is going to belong to Cenat. And that's why that's why the repeated use of the N-word by certain non-Black creators isn't some minor technicality. It's a business risk. It's a reputational risk. It's a cultural risk. And it could become a financial risk. Again, we have freedom of speech in this country, but you're not free from consequences. Now, again, as I said, Cenat has already had his own painful encounter with Foundation of Black Americans. All right. And I'll say that, but let me explain. There was a video circulating in which he appeared to say, and this was more or less what he said, African Americans weren't cultured. All right. We didn't have real culture. And the clip caused some immediate anger because Kai is a young man born and raised in New York City whose parents came from Trinidad and Tobago and Haiti. Okay. So that means he's Caribbean. He's non-FBA. He built his entire personality and vocabulary and entertainment style and music taste and mannerisms and humor and commercial appeal inside a culture created largely by foundational Black Americans, and became rich and famous performing inside Black American culture's framework. And he's someone standing inside the house we built, okay, when our clothes and our fashion inspired by Black Americans, speaking language popularized by Black Americans, earning millions from entertainment traditions created by Black Americans, and then turning around announcing that the builders had never constructed anything. And of course, as you can imagine, that didn't go over well. Somebody typed FBA in the chat room. Okay, it did not go over well at all. The clip circulated through Black social media, YouTube commentary channels, podcasts, Facebook groups, Reddit discussions, and other online spaces. They roasted the dude. Okay, they accused him of disrespecting Black Americans while simultaneously imitating and monetizing Black American culture. And some point out that his accent, his slang, his music, his comedic style, his celebrity relationships, his clothing, his dances, and his entire form of entertainment were unmistakably influenced by Black American youth culture. And he was confusing culture with having a recent immigrant nationality, as though food from Trinidad and a Haitian flag or a named Caribbean homeland constituted culture, while blues, jazz, gospel, rock and roll, hip hop, soul food, Black church, historical Black colleges, stepping in the Harlem Renaissance, civil rights traditions, Black vernacular English, and generations of American artistic creation somehow didn't count. Okay, and the online discussions continue to reference the remark. They continued to roast this dude. Okay, well after the original clip had circulated, showing that many Black viewers didn't simply forget. Matter of fact, this is the first time most of us had even heard of this man. We'd never known of him. But nevertheless, Kai Cenat learned a lesson that a lot of immigrant descended Black celebrities eventually learn, and that is foundational Black Americans we are very generous with our culture, but we're not powerless over it. Okay, you can participate in it. Okay, you can be influenced by it. You can make money from it. You can become famous through it, but you can't publicly disrespect the people who created it and assume there'll be no consequences. And he learned that millions of followers can't protect you from your historical ignorance and disrespect. He learned that celebrity friends can't erase insulting statements. He learned that being racially Black doesn't automatically give you the keys to the culture, nor does it give you the authority to redefine what Black history is. And he learned that having Caribbean parents doesn't entitle him to sit in judgment of a population whose labor, art, struggle, political victories, language, music, and institutions created the American environment in which his career became possible. And most importantly, he learned that foundational Black Americans are no longer remaining silent while everybody else uses our culture and then lectures us about what we supposedly don't possess. Okay? Now, I would say this. Latino creators have become entirely too comfortable using the N-word because they grew up, quote unquote, near or in Black neighborhoods. Just because you listen to rap music, you had Black friends, Black girlfriend, Black boyfriend, or developed an audience that didn't initially punish you for using that word. So, you see, proximity is not permission. Listening to hip hop isn't lineage. Growing up beside Black people doesn't make you one of us. And participating in Black culture doesn't transfer ownership of our historical experience. Foundational Black Americans don't generally accept the argument that every person with brown skin automatically inherits the right to use the word connected to our particular history in the United States. We barely agree about its use among our own people. Did you know that Black people might fight with you if you call them an N-word? And this is black on black. Somebody type black on black in the chat room. Okay? There are many Black people. I would say most Black people oppose the use of the word entirely, especially if you direct it towards them or someone they love. Now, others of us might tolerate it internally, right? But we still draw a hard boundary against outsiders. But whatever internal disagreements exist, a Latino creator doesn't get to ignore that boundary and then demand career advancement from a major Black platform. And that's where free speech meets consequences. You may have the legal right to say the word. The government generally isn't going to arrest you simply for saying something racially offensive. But freedom of speech doesn't force Cenat to admit you into streaming university. It doesn't require him to mentor you either. And it doesn't require him to promote you or provide you with housing and food and introduce you to celebrities and connect you with sponsors and expose you to millions of viewers or attach his multi-million-dollar brand to your career, especially when he built it on the backs of foundational Black Americans. And you can say what you want, and you can't dictate the consequences. And see, this is the part some people refuse to accept. They want unrestricted access to Black American culture without any obligation to respect Black American boundaries. They want the music, they want the slang, they want the fashion, they want the dances, they want the comedic style, they want the Black viewers, they want the Black collaborations to make them hot. They want the algorithm attention that comes from operating near Black culture. But the moment foundational Black Americans say, don't use the word, don't use that word, suddenly those same people become constitutional scholars lecturing us about free speech. You have free speech. Cenat has freedom of association. You have the freedom to use any word that you want to, that you could pronounce, I guess. And he has freedom to determine whether you are a liability to him. Didn't I just tell you he had to deal with us a few months ago? Again, you have the freedom to create your own platform. He has the freedom to keep you off of his. And that's the power of foundational Black Americans. Somebody type FBA power in the chat room. See, for decades, everybody treated our culture like an open air market where they could take whatever they wanted, sell it back to us, right? Tell the world, that they came up with it and force us to be quiet about it. Somebody type twerking in the chat room. Somebody type Miley Cyrus. Okay? But now more Black Americans own platforms. We own audiences, production companies, podcasts, streaming channels, and independent media operations. And that means we are increasingly, we increasingly possess not only the power to create culture, but also the power to decide who receives access to the economic opportunities flowing from it. Cenat is one of those gatekeepers now. He know better. Somebody type know better. Here's another thing that's overlooked. Where Cenat held the first streaming university, that's the University of Akron in Ohio. Okay? That American campus didn't become available to that young Black man simply because America woke up one morning and decided to be generous. Black Americans fought and marched and sued and protested and bled and forced this country, public institutions, to open their doors. The University of Akron in Ohio it's a northern state Black university that the Black students attended in one of those institutions that they started at before the Civil War, a civil rights era. It didn't have a legally enforced whites only admissions policy. However, it needed some changes. Okay. Did you know that in between 1968 and 1969, at that very same university, Butchell Hall, Black students seized Butchell Hall. Black students organized for greater representation. They wanted Black faculty. They wanted a Black studies program. And in December 10, 1969, 6 members of the Black United Students occupied Butchell Hall and the university's main administration during what became known as the Butchell Hall takeover. And their demands included a meaningful Black studies program and increased Black student recruitment and more Black faculty and greater institutions to support Black students. See, before what they were doing, they would just bring up the Black athletes because they wanted to win some football games. Okay, and so they have a couple of Black students around, but they didn't have enough of them. It's just the Black athletes and a few here and there, a few other Black people. And so the students said, no, we're not going for that. So they sat and they protested. That was 1968, 69. In 1973, the university established a Black Cultural Center, one of the demands that had grown out of that activism in the 1960s. In 1985 through 1992, Black students again organized demonstrations over apartheid in South Africa and racial inequality on campus, showing that the struggle for equal treatment continued well beyond that formal admission. And those students were standing on a larger foundation built on Black Americans who destroyed legal segregation through cases such as Brown versus the Board of Education and through the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So when Cenat walked on the University of Ohio Akron campus, okay, filled his dormitories with creators and converted his classrooms into streaming studios and broadcast to the world, he was using institutional groundwork that foundational Black Americans had already fought to make accessible. Cenat couldn't assume that a university in Haiti, where his parents are from, or Trinidad, where his other parents are from, or in Mexico, would hand over an entire campus with the same facilities and legal protections and technological infrastructure and corporate sponsorship and access to enormous Black American consumer market. He couldn't do that anywhere else. You understand? See, let me, because, you know, I have to tell it. I'm going to tell the whole story. Somebody type whole story in the chat room. See, the reason the world even understands Cenat's language and style and music and humor and swagger and entertainment format is because he performs inside a cultural house built by foundational Black Americans. Much of what makes him marketable is Black American cultural expression worn as a public identity. That man is Caribbean. His parents are from Trinidad and Haiti. You see? You understand? He may call himself the dean, but the foundational Black Americans built the road to the university, opened the gates, shaped the culture, created the audience, and made the entire spectacle commercially possible before anybody demands more seats at streaming universities. They need to respect the people whose struggle made the university and the opportunity possible. Now, that being the case, I'd like to welcome you all again. I'd like me to reintroduce myself. Welcome back to the broadcast. This is Uncle D. I done got up on my high horse. I'm talking. Somebody type he's talking today. I'm talking today. Now, I got a few videos I want to share with you all because I know y'all don't believe anything I say. So I'm just going to go ahead and put the videos up so y'all can see what I say is true. These people are upset. Somebody type upset in the chat room. You guys make sure that I can't believe these people are mad about this, man. And look, I have some interesting information that I'm going to share with y'all as to this whole thing. But yeah, so they mad at Cenat. And I know this is, I got a bunch of people in here over 35 saying, who is Cenat? How do you spell Cenat? Much less who is he? Okay, I get that. Y'all don't know who he is. But bottom line is, this is the response. You guys check this out. Y'all hit the #1 button, man.
Whole bunch of Hispanics and Latinos are upset that more Hispanics and Latinos were not accepted into Cenat Streamer University. But see, here's the thing about that. There was absolutely Latinos accepted into the Streamer University. They just happen to be Afro-Latino. And therein lies the hypocrisy of your outrage. Because let's be so for real for a moment here. You know, and the world knows how Hispanics and Latinos feel about Afro-Latinos. So making those videos saying that you're upset that more Hispanic and Latinos weren't accepted does nothing but further prove to the world the racism that is your own argue from time to time. But weren't a lot of you just standing 10 toes down with the racism that Ashley Gonzalez exhibited? We stand with Ashley Gonzalez? I don't know. Perhaps you can reach out to her and see if she can open a streamer university. And please explain to me why it's always stop dividing us only when you're not included, but never when it matters, like voting, for instance. The open, blatant racism that so many of you exhibit towards the Black community and your desperate yearning for white alignment always seems to fly right out of the window when you think there's an opportunity to profit off of us, off of our work, off of our labor. Perhaps you should reach out to one of your white brothers and sisters and see if they'll open a streamer university and accept you.
So I'm not saying nothing because she's saying it all. So I normally would interrupt, but I'm not going to interrupt because she's saying everything that I would say. So I'm just going to be quiet. And even though I interrupted to say I'm not interrupted, that's all part of what I do. It's my way of interrupting and also making the people happy that I'm not interrupting. Praise Moses.
Let me wrap this up by saying there absolutely have been Hispanics and Latinos accepted into the streamer university. You're just mad that it wasn't you. Maybe you should write a rap about it. Call it niggas be tripping, because we
family friendly,
know how you love that word.
They do. See that? See how it all comes. Somebody type Ashley Gonzalez in the chat room. See that? You have freedom of speech, but you know, you're not free from consequences. So that lady said it all. She said a whole lot. She said a lot. It's hard to follow that act. Let me just go ahead and move on to the next person because she did a great job. Let's see what else other people have to say.
Latina, I'm truly disgusted on how y'all Latinas and Latinos are turning this whole streamer university shit into some racism shit. When is it gonna stop? Yeah, he accepted over 20 Hispanics. So what the fuck are y'all talking about? It was only 120 people. And then the ones talking are the ones with the crazy digital footprint. Like, y'all just be on stream downplaying the Black community but want to be in a Black creator space.
So basically what she's saying, this Latina woman is saying, this Afro-Latina is saying they picked 20 Hispanics. Now, Latino and Hispanic are often used interchangeably, so I'll go into a definition of exactly what that is. But she also pointed out the fact, and she would know that they're on their broadcast saying these horrible things about Black people, down in the Black. So not only are you down in the Black community, not only are you using the N-word, but you also down in the, how don't you think there's going to be some blowback from that? You understand why Cenat, who just had issues with foundational Black Americans, would quickly realize that's a hot potato. I can't deal with that. Too racist. Somebody type too racist in the chat room.
Why would he pick y'all? And it's a lot of creators that have millions of followers. The ones that got hundreds of thousands of followers talking. Why don't y'all just go and make your own shit? Yeah. But make sure y'all thank him for the idea. And if you think that next year you're going to get into streamer university after all this controversy, yeah, fuck you.
Oh my God, your language. Watch that potty mouth. Shout out to Amari the Truth.
Fuck you.
Potty mouth, potty mouth. You're going to watch your potty mouth. Family friendly. Watch it, miss.
As an
we're family friendly here, but she made some good salient points. She brought up some very interesting points. I appreciate that. No potty mouth here, though. We're going to continue to be family friendly. We're going to continue to remain monetized. That's what we're going to do. Let's listen to this. You guys make sure you subscribe if you haven't.
I feel like in a very non-violent way, the streamer university situation has showed people that, yes, you have freedom of speech, but you are not free of consequences. And you are not free of making someone feel a way. So whether you decide that you don't care about the consequences of saying a word that has a lot of history and a lot of shame behind it, if you're not the intended person supposed to be using it, someone else cares. You can't just run around using racial epithets and think Black people are going to ignore. See, a lot of people think that Black people aren't supposed to defend themselves. We're just supposed to be the dumping ground for everybody else's trouble. And so when Black people get up and start saying, hey, here's some boundaries, we expect you to respect our boundaries, then they have a problem with that because Black culture has been so open. You know, you certainly wouldn't call a Jewish person or an Italian person or an Irish person a racial epithet because their cultures are not open. Same thing with Hispanics. They have a very closed culture. And if you go use one of the various racial epithets against them that
racists typically use, they'd be offended. You couldn't get a black rapper on the internet talking about my wetback this, my wetback that, but you have these Hispanic and Latino rappers, they say the N-word all the time. That's just not appropriate. It's offensive. It should be offensive. And people need to be mindful of that. And when you talk about the term wetback, that was actually the name of an operation. That was literally the name of a I would say military / legal enforcement operation as part of American history. You would literally learn that in American history, but we don't use that because it creates trauma and we don't want to traumatize anybody. And Black Americans are very sensitive to that. So we don't say those things like that. But other people just feel open and be able to just criticize our community and use these racial epithets. Again, it's time for Black people to close ranks, which is, I think, what we're doing now. And now people are offended because they've been so used to being able to use those words and now they can't anymore. But let's keep listening.
Offending someone else. Every time you walk out the house and you say that shit around a group of people, that you recognize that you could be offending someone and you deliberately do it and you deliberately do not care. Therefore, you should not be surprised that someone does not want to include you, because why would they want to invite someone who's going to make them feel away? And that is my gripe with y'all. Y'all expect everybody to bend and break for y'all, but y'all don't recognize that y'all biting your own hands.
You are.
And that you are using a slur. Whether you want to be like, I grew up with this, I grew up with this, I grew up with this or not. Anybody who knows anything knows that there is someone who could have a problem with it. Even Black people know that there are other Black people who do not like hearing or the use of the word.
Yes, there are Black people who don't like the use of the word. I'm constantly checking other Black people about using N-word. Don't do it to me, because I'm gonna tell you about yourself. But this young lady is she's on point, and she's explained it is a racial slur. It is disrespectful, and I don't care what generation you grew up in. It's still disrespectful. Just because you have that Black friend, you don't even know if that Black friend is FBA. A lot of these Black friends that they're talking about are people from the Caribbean or Africa. And so the word don't hit the same as it does with a foundational Black American purpose. But we wasn't N-words until we got over here. That's when N-words had to pick cotton. You understand? N-words wasn't running around Africa chasing antelope and buffalo and whatnot. N-words was out here chopping sugar cane, okay, and picking tobacco. All right, so it's a very big difference. N-words was getting hung from trees. You see the difference? All right, so let's keep listening.
So why do you think that you are above backlash? Like, why do you think that you are above someone else's opinion if you yourself have gone out of your way to form your own about not caring? I feel very...
Yeah. And somebody said, yeah, Italian. You don't go around calling Italians racial epithets. They have their own race. You don't do that. That's disrespectful. Black people know better to do that. And if somebody hit you upside the head because you called them by that racial epithet, it would not be, they wouldn't be wrong for doing it, in my humble opinion. But let's keep on listening. Let's keep listening to what the people have to say.
Complaining about Streamer University. Y'all did this same ass shit, lame ass shit last year. Why the fuck don't y'all just create your own system? At the end of the day, y'all are treating Streamer University like it's a system of power, like it's ran by the government, like y'all are being denied.
They treating Streamer University like it's a welfare check, and they just supposed to be able to line up and get in line, and like somehow Cenat is being prejudiced against them because they don't have equal representation in the welfare check line. This is not for everybody. That's that man's private business. This is private money. That's on him. He can do what he want to do.
From healthcare.
And Stefan to go ahead and start her own streaming university for you all if it's that serious. You want all Latino, do it like that. But you can't judge this man, especially, again, Cenat has already felt the proverbial hands of Black Americans. He has dealt with foundational Black Americans when he said we don't have any culture. The last thing he wants to do is empower some Latino person who's going to spew racist rhetoric and say the N-word every third word. And then he gets the blowback because he sanctioned them by bringing them through his quote unquote Streamer University. He don't want that smoke. He does not want it.
Or y'all being denied from student loans, or y'all being denied from college. This is not a real fucking college. Kai is a Black man with a almost entirely Black community, with an almost entirely Black friend group, and he used his platform to platform his other Black friends and other Black creators that he know. Why don't y'all ask Wendy Ortiz or Ashley Gonzalez to use their collective money, all the money that y'all been pumping into them bitches to create
Shout out to Black saying that Ashley Gonzalez. Somebody type Ashley Gonzalez.
something for Latinos? Why the fuck does it always have to be Black people building systems for other people of color? I don't see other people of color doing anything for Black people. What the fuck is going on? Are y'all not tired? Are y'all not tired for asking for pennies and scraps from the Black community while y'all systematically keep us from everything that y'all got going on? And y'all,
you know, you barely get invited to a quinceañera, much less, you know, streaming university. Nobody's entitled to anything. This is this man's private money. I'm gonna move on to the next person. This little lady is cussing entirely too much. She made some good points, but the profanity, we got to keep the profanity down on my family-friendly broadcast. Let's see if we can find somebody else with less profanity involved in their delivery. Okay, that's what we're gonna look for. Let's see what these fellas have to say.
Streamers into Streamer University. Now, Cenat did accept some streamers from the Hispanic community. Two. So to say he's discriminating, he's not discriminating. He just really feels in his heart that these are the only 2 streamers, and that's bad. That's the bad in the Hispanic community that he feels don't have a racist bone. Now that's bad because the world is big.
I want you to listen to that. He's saying out of the 2 streamers that this guy, now the other young lady said it was about 20. The Afro-Latina said he accepted about 20 Hispanics. This gentleman said he's only accepting 2. And I'm assuming that's 2 white Hispanics because they're the only ones that don't have racist streams. In other words, they're the only ones that are not using racism, i.e. the N-word in their streaming content, which is going to come back to bite him. Look at that. You know, whose fault is that? Nobody Black people told you not to use the word. You might have a couple of Black friends who were cool with it, but these are consequences. These are the consequences associated with your freedom of speech. Okay, just because you have freedom of speech does not mean you are free from consequences. So again, out of all the thousands and thousands of Latino content creators, there was only 2 that Cenat saw that didn't use profanity or racial epithets. That is outstanding, and I don't mean that in a good way. Let's keep listening.
Big, and it's a lot of Hispanic streamers. So yes, y'all really need to go look at y'all content on how y'all move. If you're being a culture vulture, if you're jacking, yeah, I think Cenat is not biting into that. If he see any similarities of you being a streamer and you're moving like a couple of them, when DDG caught a couple of them slipping, and you know how they try to get Ryan Garcia to be in with them and say, yeah, 100 gorillas, yes, and this many Mexicans can fight 100 gorillas, but you knew what he was meaning. And Ryan Garcia looked at you like, and see, this is what they're talking about. And this is the same man that they have by the neck. And this is what I'm talking about, where yes, they want to be in Black spaces, but behind closed doors, they're doing this, the Black dissing, or they're jocking. They're jocking. They're doing the complexion, saying the words, and they know that gets clicks by saying the words, being the complexion they is. And yeah, they gotta accept what grave they dug. You understand? I don't understand why the Hispanics is getting upset. When they should just go ask Tekashi 69 to start this up, start his own university. Y'all claiming y'all want to start a university. I'm giving you an idea right now, right here. Here's the perfect man to be the face of y'all streaming university. Cannot make this up. His fan base is Latino and Hispanic community, the biggest of the Latino and Hispanic community. And
shout out to Hazel and Arby. Thank you so much.
He's international. He is international. But Tekashi 69, and you can see, he is a culture vulture. The biggest of the culture vultures is Tekashi 69. Very upset at us that we won't let him into the door. He says nigga a lot. A lot. He had the green light from the Black community to do what he do and say what he said at them times. But yeah, he went back in the Black space and he can't get back over here. He knows what that comes with. We are more strict by our rules, especially if you're not Hispanic, same for if Black was being over there, you know what I'm saying, trying to be a part of the Hispanic community. Yes, y'all put them through the same shit that we put him through. And meaning, yeah, you have to put in work. Yes, work, you know what I'm saying, to get validated, you know what I'm saying, by the Black community. And Tekashi 69 was putting in work, and then he broke the rules, and you can't get back in the door. And he says, nigga, and he is a rat, and he know Ratatouille right here. He knows Blacks is not going to let him back in the space. But y'all don't need him to be let. He don't need to be let back in the Black space. Y'all could just bump this up. Y'all know how big he is. Y'all know how big he is, how much power he got. Yeah, He'd be very powerful in y'all's community. I don't understand why not. This is the best way he could get back into where that space he's trying to get back into. Or he just really want to be black. That's it. If he don't want that or accept that, because it seems like he want to be back on top. But if he's still mad after y'all get his ass back on top from starting y'all own streaming university, I think he just want to be black. That's all that's to it. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this. Drop it in the comments. Hey, I gave y'all an idea. Y'all don't need to come over here and beg to get put on, streaming university. Y'all don't need to beg us. You know what I'm saying? Wanting our scraps like y'all do. It's crazy. It's crazy. We don't ask for handouts. We don't ask for a platform. Y'all ain't hooking us up at y'all venues or setting up a platform or letting us perform at y'all big old Hispanic or Latino parties. Yes.
I mean, he's not wrong. I mean, he's speaking the truth. He's not wrong. I mean, you guys, you all practice exclusion with us, but you want inclusion from Black Americans, i.e., foundational Black Americans. So that's an issue. Okay, that's an issue. But we'll move on to the next video. We appreciate all these people who are educating us on what's really going on out there and how people really feel. And shout out to all the content creators. We need that, because this is how we lay the foundation so that we're able to fully discuss what's going on. Let's keep listening.
Videos that popping up in my FYP page because apparently Cenat decided not to invite a bunch of Hispanic streamers to his streamer university. And I'm gonna say this, man. For people who keep saying they got black fatigue, y'all keep trying to be around us. It's okay if a black person got black fatigue with some of these niggas, because we got to be able to hold ourselves accountable. But when you got these other races who get on the internet and say they got black fatigue, and you trying to be at Streamer University with a bunch of niggas who finna show you about that black fatigue, why would you sign up to that? Why would you want to be a part of that? Why are you angry that y'all walk around this bitch saying nigga, using it in all the wrong way?
Sir, family friendly. This is why they keep using the word. Did you keep using it, sir? Can't keep saying that word like that. They're gonna think they can use. That's the problem. Somebody typed the problem in the chat room. That's the problem. I'm gonna let them keep going.
And when black folks say they are offended by that, then you all act like we just told y'all, we just cussed out y'all mama or something. Y'all, oh, it's just a word, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to keep saying this.
It's not just a word.
And y'all wonder why some people voted for Donald Trump because of shit like this. I've been black my whole life. And I'm going to sit here and tell you, man, black people, you really don't got allies. We do. And it sucks to say your allies really going to be the white folks. Just honest to God. The rest of these people, bro, they take the hatred part of the white folks, some of the Asian community, some of the Latino community, and then they base their whole personality around that. That's the craziest part. I got Hispanic friends, and they'll tell you, yes, colorism runs rampant in the Latino community, and racism against black folks runs rampant. The Hispanic streamers to his streamer.
We know that colorism runs rampant. We know that. We know that they have issues, and it's apparent when they come to the United States. But let's keep listening.
My nigga, just make your own streamer university. Like, I'm confused.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not confused. That they need infrastructure for that. They don't have. Again, I went here and explained to you all how black people, dealt with this very same University of Akron, and it's the footsteps or the footprints that Shania, Mr. Cenat is able to occupy that allows him to even do that. Let's listen to some more videos. You guys make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already.
The majority black people for streaming university. Like, I don't even understand why this is a discourse. And I have a question, and be honest with yourself. If roles were reversed and a Hispanic person was in charge of picking streamers for streaming university, how many Hispanics would you guys would have chosen versus how many black or any other race would you have chosen? Subconsciously, I fear you guys would have picked more Hispanics, just like how Kai's black. So subconsciously, he picked more black people. I don't understand the issue. Y'all are sitting here acting as if he only picked black people. He picked multiple races. It wasn't all black. It was just majority black. He's black. I'm confused. And then some of these Hispanic creators that weren't picked, they be saying nigga like it's a pronoun. And then they're upset when the nigga, the actual nigga, don't pick them. I'm confused.
Family friendly. Yeah, you can't say the N-word and then think there won't be any blowback because of that. That's just not acceptable. You know, matter of fact, black people don't even want to hang around black people to use the N-word too much. We have something called classism. Again, if you're around a person that every other word they're using the N-word, you don't want to be around them either. So why would we empower somebody from another ethnicity that uses the word, to use the N-word? And then see, that's the rationale. And so that's why black people say it's best just not to use. You use it. No, it's best for you not to use it. It's like poison. Okay. It's not something that everybody can deal with. Okay. Sometimes it's used as a cure, and sometimes it can cause a lot of serious harm. So just don't use it at all. Let's keep listening.
Common sense approach. Now, I just recently watched this video of this Latino lady explaining to other Latinos the reason why a lot of them probably wasn't picked to be a part of Cenat Streaming University, those who are streamers. And she had a couple reasons why. Now, the first one was that a lot of you, when Black Americans asked you to stop using the N-word, you continue to do so, saying that you can say whatever you want. And I agree. But like she also said, who wants a group of people amongst them or around them who will not respect what they're asking them not to say, especially if it's a word or something that has nothing to do with their people whatsoever, and it might be offending their people, but you still want to be amongst those people. And I totally agree with that. See, what a lot of you really want to do is just come around amongst Black Americans, steal the creativity. You go back to your little cubby holes, and then you start talking about you created it, like hip hop, or you helped build it, or it wouldn't be what it is without Hispanics. You love doing that, especially when it comes to Black American entertainment and fashion. Okay, let me give you an example. When a lot of these streamers, Hispanic streamers, saw that they wasn't accepted to be a part of Cenat Streaming University, they started saying, well, we're going to make our own streaming university. That's what I mean. Come up with your own shit. Stealing Black Americans or Black people's creativity. Come up with your own. Which leads me to a second reason why a lot of you wasn't chosen to be a part of it. You suck at entertainment.
Oh.
That's what she said. You suck at entertainment, especially Latino rappers. You suck.
Yeah, you know, Latinos have their own art forms. They have their own different genres, you know, but imitating Black art is not really going to take you that far, because you're always going to be second rate in that. Okay. It's only very rarely that you have some people who can come in and imitate Black art and do well, like Bobby Caldwell. Somebody type Bobby Caldwell in the chat room. Many Black people don't know that Bobby Caldwell is a Black man. Did you know that? Did you? A white man. We thought he was Black the whole time. Bobby Caldwell. Y'all know who I'm talking about. It's another, you know that there's a bunch of them out there like that. We didn't know. We didn't know till we actually saw him. Like, wow, he is excellent in that. Okay. Tina Marie. Somebody type Tina Marie. Fire in the sun. You know what I'm talking about. She got it down. Okay, that heavy lady from England. What's her name? The big one. She's pretty face. She's big, but she's pretty and she can sing. And I didn't say sing. She can sing. Y'all know what I'm talking about. The lady from Britain. You know who I mean? Huh? Eminem. That's right. Eminem. Whatever you say. Eminem is he has definitely perfected the art. Okay, Adele. That's right, Adele. She sound like she eat collard greens. But anyway, let's move on to let the brother finish saying what he has to say.
Words, not mine, but I do agree. All because you're stealing the creativity of another, and nobody likes a fucking replica.
Family friendly.
They want the real deal. You cosplaying. That's what you love to do. Come amongst us, not all of you, but the ones that she was talking about. Come amongst Black Americans and steal the creativity, the swag, and then next thing you know, you're talking about you built it. It wouldn't be nothing without you. And so I'm not saying that's the reason why Cenat didn't pick a lot of you guys, but I can see that being the reasons why. This common sense approach.
I think it's more simple. I think that if the benefit outweigh the risk, he would have chosen. But if you have a bunch of people and they're using the N-word on their streams all the time, hell, if I was using the N-word on my stream all the time, I would expect that people wouldn't, watch me as much. I have 30% of my followers watch me on television. That means 3 out of 10 of you all are sitting in your homes or sitting somewhere with the remote control in one hand, watching all these commercials as I play, which means y'all have sat up and decided that I want to watch this guy in an open forum in my home where anybody can walk by and listen. So I have to monitor my language. I can't just be in here throwing off N-word every other word. I can't do it because it's not marketable. And if you have streamers who are on there saying N-word this, N-word that, and you're Latino, it makes it worse. Y'all act like this is 1990s gangster rap. That was 40 years ago, 30 years ago. Nobody's doing that anymore. But anyway, let's move on to the next person. Shout out to all these people educating us on this because, of course, everybody over 35 has no idea who Cenat is, but it's still the same old story. Let's keep listening to the next video.
Story had Kai even been Black American. He's not even Black American. Okay, but they're saying Black people this, Black people that. This is their own people, literally. This is their own people. But why do you feel entitled knowing you come from places that are wildly anti-Black?
Now, I find it interesting. This young lady says something that I noted recently in a broadcast when I say that oftentimes Black immigrants identify more with other immigrants because they see the world through the immigrant gaze. They identify as immigrants more as first as opposed to Black first. And that's why this young lady has uniquely pointed out, these are your people. These are your people. In other words, he belongs to you. Shout out to William Lynch. Now, that may not be certain in all cases, but this lady is speaking about her experience. So let's continue listening.
Black. It just, didn't you just have fatigue like 2 seconds ago?
Cenat is a Caribbean American. Y'all already don't consider Haitian people Afro-Latinos, even though they are. Y'all already don't consider Haitian people Latinos, even though they are. So
yeah, Haitians are Latino. I'm gonna break that down. Did y'all know that Haitians were Latino? Haitians were Latino. We're gonna continue. We're gonna learn a lot. Shout out to Penelope. What's up, baby? My girl Penelope came through with the 10 gifts. Thank you so much. Let's keep listening.
this whole discourse about Shirley University not accepting Hispanics and Latinos, actually, there are a lot of us, a lot of Afro-Latinos there. Y'all just don't really acknowledge that. And how come nobody's calling out Kai's ethnicity all of a sudden? Why is everybody for him now?
There are times when you need someone.
Yeah.
When it's time to galvanize.
Okay, again.
And like celebrate their Latinx culture, they got a Haiti flag in there. Why are you bringing up Black people? I'm really trying to figure it out. Y'all saw the Haitian flag, right? They went down the line.
All right. So again, here's what we're looking at. Okay. Here's what we're looking at. This is really none of our business, but we got groups from the Caribbean and and the Latin community. Going at it. Okay. And so the Latino community is treating this young Caribbean man like he's Black. So he gets thrown into, it's the Black people's fault category. And this is why Black people tell Caribbeans and Africans when they come to this country, they got to put the flags down because they're not seen as their individual country. Here in the United States, people are separated out by race. That's just how we do it. You might not like it, but it is what it is. And so now we have to pick up the flag for this quote unquote Black man who is being quote unquote racist towards Latino people. This is what this looks like. But she also pointed out the fact that he did bring in Latinos. They were Afro-Latinos. All right. So, and that's another insidious term that we have to explain, because oftentimes, and this is based on research and what I'm seeing, a lot of Latinos don't see Afro-Latinos as Latino. They see them as black or whatever other word they call them. But let's keep listening.
Bro, I'm gonna find a university. It's really special, and I'm just gonna put up Mexican streamers, Hispanic content creators, and just call it Streamara Universitaria.
Yeah, he thought that shit was actually a flex. You're gonna steal an idea from a black person, and then once again, you see what's the difference between black people and everybody else? He said, I'm gonna make a streaming university and put just Mexicans and Hispanic. There's Hispanics, there's white people, there's black people in streaming university. That's the difference. Once again, you told on yourself without even realizing it. That's the difference. Yeah, feel free.
So again, they're going to go back to practicing exclusion, which is not something that they haven't been doing. You see what I'm saying? So they practice exclusion, we practice inclusion, and when they don't deem our inclusion has been sufficient, they want to punish us by continuing practicing exclusion, which they've done the whole time. But it also goes to let you know that they feel entitled, and it's not just Latinos or one group or the other. I mean, literally, you have black people who are saying, "Hey, we're gonna boycott the Asian community," and you got Asians in an uproar on the internet saying crazy things about black people. But I have yet to see a whole lot of Asian folk in any soul food restaurants. I just want to point that out. So it would seem as though you all practice exclusion, but the minute we say we're going to practice exclusion, all hell breaks loose. Very interesting story. Very, very interesting. But again, foundational Black Americans, we have not closed the gate. We've allowed too many people to enter in. They feel entitled. Somebody type entitled. They feel entitled. And so now that we're saying, hey, gates closed, shop closed, they're angry. But let's continue listening to this young man. Shout out to this gentleman, Fair Use.
Feel free to stream with Ashley Gonzalez. Feel free to stream with Ashley Gonzalez. We cool with that. What happened to all the black fatigue? Y'all don't want black people in y'all spaces. Y'all say the N-word more than people in the hood. But when black people doing anything to help black people, y'all got a problem with that too. What's up with that? Yeah. The thing is, y'all like when black people beg for stuff. Y'all want black people to be struggling. That's all it is. Y'all enjoy black people struggling. Y'all enjoy black people being at the bottom, because then you got something to punch down on. And if black people are not at the bottom of a certain space, then y'all got nothing to punch down on but yourselves. Y'all say the N-word like y'all got to stutter nick all day long. It's weird. Nobody want to be around that. We got fatigued. We fatigued. We're tired of the shit.
Yeah, you all look. You can't be fatigued. Okay, you on one hand you fatigued with black people. On the other hand, you want to sit around 100 black people with a black dude being in charge. You got to make up your mind. Okay, I'm just saying. I need to understand. I need to understand what's going on, because you can't have both black. You can't have black fatigue on one hand, and then on the other hand, say you want to be around our things. That's illogical. But let's keep
university, bro. I'm gonna find a university. It's really special, and I'm just gonna put up Mexican streamers, Hispanic content creators, and just call it Streamara Universitaria.
Well, you should have did that ahead of time.
He thought that shit was actually a flex.
You should have did that ahead of time.
You're gonna steal an idea from a black person.
You should have did that ahead of time. Now you complaining because you got rejected. Okay, you complaining because you got rejected. That's interesting. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's see what else he has to say. All right. Okay. Looks like that video is out of here. All right. So again, you see the saga continues. You have people with varying responses to this very interesting topic. I want to let this this gentleman play. You guys make sure you like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already.
See, you gotta watch your mouth.
Uh-oh, here it is. You gotta watch what?
Latinos are mad because they didn't get into Streamer University. See, you gotta watch your mouths. You always saying the N-word. You trying to turn Streamer University into Telemundo? Doing a Macarena up and down the hallways at Streamer University. It's bad enough Cenat is cosplaying as a Black American. He's Haitian and Trinidadian. And you think we got to be subjected to you saying...
All right, did you hear that part? Okay, it's already bad enough that you have a non-foundational Black American who's basically attached himself to foundational Black American humor, culture, music, style, etc., and has, you know, generated millions of dollars, which is not something that's uncommon. It happens all the time. You have a lot of artists and entertainers that blend in with the greater foundational Black American populace, and they win here. They win. They do here in this country what they're unable to do in their own country, whether we're talking about Nicki Minaj, Biggie Small, whether you're talking about Luke, whether you're talking about many of the premier hip hop artists, even as far back as Little Kim, who's Jamaican. And we're okay with that. What we do have a problem with is you disrespecting the culture. Nevertheless, Cenat just falls in, Cardi B also, Cenat just falls into a long line of people who come to the country, they mimic the style, they mimic the culture, they do well for themselves, and we applaud that, General. We are not haters. We're happy that you take our culture and you make money, whether we're talking about Elvis or Eminem, whether you're talking about the Beatles who imitated Little Richard, all these other people, great. Just give us our respect. Just give us our, we're not asking for a cut per se. Some of us are, some of us might want to check. But what we do want is respect and the fact that you have to acknowledge the authenticity. But if you go outside of the rules and you disrespect the culture, you've got to expect backlash. Again, we cannot put enough emphasis on the fact that Cenat, who is of Haitian and Trinidadian descent, has had to feel the proverbial hands of foundational Black Americans when he made the unfortunate mistake of saying we don't have the culture, or we don't have a culture, the same culture by which he is living under and generating his millions under. He said we don't have that. The same culture which allowed the University of Akron to say, yeah, we better open this university, or we had to deal with some of these Black folk back in 68 and 69. You understand? And so I'm just saying, I'm just pointing some things out to you. I just feel like y'all need to know, whether you like it or not, whether you folk around the world like it or not, Black America, i.e., this population of Black people in the United States, is the most influential group of people of African descent in the world. I would dare say we're the most influential group of people in modern times of African descent, whether we're talking about music, culture, style, manner of speaking, straight up cool, the most famous athletes, actors, etc., come from right here in the United States, and that's for a reason. But bottom line is, you know, we are definitely the pulse of what is the African diaspora. That's why we don't need to go anywhere. You all need to come over here. But I'm gonna let this gentleman finish speaking.
Saying the N-word every other word.
That's what they're doing.
Like, bro. My nigga, like nigga, mommy, papi, like nigga, like, you know, nigga, like, we don't want to hear that.
You don't.
What's going on with you Latinos? You have no cultural nor historical connection to the N-word. You gotta stop. Listen, it's not the end of the world, okay? If you didn't make it to Streamer University, it's not the end of the world, okay? Just keep pushing your content, whatever that is. Don't cosplay being Black American, and don't Say the N-word. Next time you might get chosen.
Don't say it.
God is good.
Yeah. That's not hard to figure out. It's real easy. Let's flip the script. Let's say you had a person of non-Latino or non-Hispanic descent, and every other word was, some racial epithet. And I hate to even say it, but there was an operation called Operation Wetback. It took place in the early 1920s. Let's say they kept using that word every other string. This, that, this. Then this person, and then Telemundo hosts some sort of activity and says, "Yeah, we want entertainers to come here, and we want you all to use your streaming platform XYZ." And then you got this same non-Hispanic streamer or influence who's used this term over and over again. That would not sit well with Hispanic or Latino viewers. Somebody would say, "Hey, this guy has no respect for the culture or our people. Why would Telemundo give him permission to appear on their show, knowing that that's Hispanic run or Latino run?" Not cool at all. And you all will feel the same way we did. Now we'll let this guy finish talking. Here's somebody who has something else to say. Very interesting. This guy with the orange hoodie here, beanie, ski mask. Listen to this guy.
Latino streamers into Streamer University is because of how much they say the word. Yes, chat, they apparently say it in the songs, they say it in streams, they say it in day-to-day conversations with one another, and that is the exact reason as to why Kai didn't select too much Mexicans.
Shout out to Penelope. Now, this guy is trying to justify or explain away. Well, let's let him finish.
And honestly, bro, that could be true, but chat, what this results in—
It is true. It is very true. But let's see why he says it doesn't count.
Was comments of people saying, "Tell Ashley Gonzalez to start a streamer you." I mean, just separating our two groups of people. I'm gonna just be honest with you guys, bro. This really did expose how many people actually rock with the raza and how many people actually don't. You guys see right here.
It's not that La Raza. And when they say La Raza, that means the race. How many people rock with La Raza? Okay. Here's the thing. Ashley Gonzalez was something that happened within very recent memory. She was a racist HBT officer who basically explained how she used her badge and used her authority given to her by the city of Houston to purposely target foundational Black Americans and practice racism. Basically, she's basically saying, "Hey, I'm a bigot with a badge." And you think Black people are supposed to forget that? Texas has the largest population of Black people in America. You think we're just going to forget that? So you can't just say, "Oh, we just used the N-word. That's not a big deal. Oh, and Ashley Gonzalez, that's not a big deal." What about all the people who said they stood with Ashley Gonzalez? What about them? I mean, just search the internet. The people they got comment after comment. "I stand with Ashley Gonzalez," and then you see the Spanish surnames next to that. This is how you really feel. And now you get mad, okay? Like you thought there was going to be any pushback. Again, no, they don't want Black people to stand up for themselves. We are not supposed to defend ourselves. That's what this is. We're not supposed to exercise power. Remember, these people have fooled themselves into believing we don't have power. I would like to remind everyone that foundational Black Americans are Americans. We have been Americans for hundreds of years. We have the same authority, power, voting power that every other group of Americans have. I think that probably the only people we are only second to white America. And when I say white America, I'm talking about the heritage Americans who've been here as far as political savvy, land, institutional knowledge. Okay, I need you all to understand that you all are relatively new here. We know how America works. And so, just to dismiss that and just totally disrespect the whole indigenous or ethnic group to the United States is always going to be a problem. You're always going to get blowback. Again, you have freedom of speech, but you are not free from consequences. Let's let this guy with the Elmo beanie keep talking.
Let's not forget the overwhelming support of Ashley Gonzalez. Make it make sense. Chat, I just want to know something though. Which influencer was out here supporting Ashley Gonzalez? I haven't seen not even one even make.
Okay, influencers, we're talking about the population at large, sir. We're talking Just look at all the people who say, I stand with Ashley Gonzalez. Just Google it. Okay, so it's not, it would be difficult if it was just one or two influence. We're talking about the Hispanic population at large. And I'm not saying all Hispanics are racist. I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm pointing out that this is what Black people saw. Group to group. Black people say, oh, this is what you stand with? Because see, if it was a Black dude out there talking about, I can't stand these WBs, blah, 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 I can't wait to put him in jail, we would check him on that, because that's not what we do. First of all, we would say, where is this dude from? He can't be FBA talking like that. And then somebody would talk to him and say, hey, that's not what we do. Same thing if we had some white cop, a Black cop talking about how he can't wait to put some white boys in jail or this, that, and the other. We would check him on that. That's not what everybody would check him on. That's not what we do. Okay, we might not get along. We might have our racist, prejudiced beliefs, but that is not what we do. You all are bold with it. How you gonna say you just stand with the racist Ashley Gonzalez after she goes on a 3-minute rant about how she hates N-words over and how she's used her badge to abuse Black people, knowing that the history that Black people have with the criminal justice system in America? That is ridiculous for you to think that there wouldn't be some blowback because of that, or consequences. Somebody type consequences in the chat room.
A single joke about her.
I thought y'all was tired of why are you always trying to be in this space? And also, Cenat's Black, so why would he want to put on other Black streamers?
This is the thing about it. Nobody that's in the influencer space of the Mexicans said that they were tired of you guys. So I don't know where you guys are getting this from, and it's probably just from the comment section. That's why I'm reading the.
Hold on a minute. Hold on. All right. So shout out to O's White. Notice how he said nobody in the streamer space is saying how they were tired of you guys, dude. I mean, look. I said this a few months ago. The new face of white supremacy is brown. Okay, I'm just and look, it's actually an old face. Okay, because you know the brown people were here with the Spanish. They came, and the Spanish were the ones that discovered the United States. So again, there's no excuse for this crap, man. We wouldn't take it from white folks. So what makes you think we would take it from Latinos or any other ethnic group? That is ridiculous for these people to expect that there would be no blowback for the constant use of the N-word on the internet when you're non-Black. Again, we don't even like Black people using the N-word. We don't even like Black people using that. Okay, we don't. It's a derogatory term. Just because you heard some rapper saying it back in the 1980s and 90s, okay, does not mean it's acceptable. Matter of fact, if you really start looking at those rappers, we had a term for them. We call them studio gangsters. I want you to look up that term, studio gangster, from Tupac to Suge Knight to Snoop Dogg to Dr. Dre to even Ice Cube. And we love the music, but about the only one of those dudes in those organizations, Mac 10 and WC, those are the only ones who I would say were actually in that life. You understand what I'm saying? And King T, somebody you all who don't even know. Even the venerable Ice-T was more of a player and not a gangster. You understand what I'm saying? I would know because I'm from South Central LA and I lived in that area, and you know, like, yeah, all right, yeah, go ahead and make the money, but we know who you really are. You a rapper, you're not a gangster. You barely a D-boy. You sell a little weed. I'm just keeping it 100 with you, okay? None of these dudes that you really enjoy, especially none of these dudes was gangsters. They were not gangsters. Snoop sold a little weed. Ice Cube went to school in the Valley. Snoop Dogg went to school in Long Beach. Long Beach was a good neighborhood back in the 90s. Compton, Watts, South Central. That was the ghetto. Okay, Inglewood was nice back in the day. All right, I'm just giving y'all the standard. If you were from Watts, hell, if you were from the east side of LA, Watts or Compton, yeah, you had a badge of honor just by coming up through there. But some of those other places, that's just something they sold you all on, the rest of the world, to make money. Shout out to them for doing it, but these are the facts. Let's keep listening.
Comment section is actually apparently Hispanics have been saying the N-word. Apparently, you can't make this up. That's 44 Vortex or 44 Veto, however he wanted, say his name. But what I can tell you is going down in a real way as Hispanics is looking for a handout from the Black community. Can't make this up. From Cenat, is going down in a real way as Hispanics is making videos. And what I can tell you is, as you see 44 speaking on the situation, saying, yes, Cenat is apparently, yes, because of the N-word, not letting that mean Latinos, only let two in because of the N-word. You cannot make this up. And what I can tell you is, yeah, when you've been
again, the common consensus seems to be that the reason Cenat eliminated so many Hispanic content creators was because of their rampant use of the N-word. Okay, so yeah, it's racism, it's their use of racism, which made him make a business decision. Again, he's already dealt with foundational Black Americans by simply saying that we don't have any culture. He got so much blowback and that he decided if I got, all I said was they don't have culture in passing, and these people came at me like that, and during this delineation time period, I'm definitely not going to put a Hispanic streamer in my streamer university who has, you know, hours and hours of footage open to the world where he's used the N-word. That is not going to be good for my business model. That's basically what he's saying. But anyway, let's move on to the next one. We gathered that point. We hear what he has to say, and we appreciate that. And now, again, some of you all are saying that, you know, well, you know, it's just, you know, it's what's the big deal? what's the big deal? I mean, you know, everybody, you know, it's just the N-word. You all use it, you know, why can't we use it? Right? That's what you're saying. And the problem is, it's not just that. Okay, it's not just that. All right, because you have other Latinos. Well, let's take a look. Let's see. Do y'all remember this? Remember this guy right here? Let's see what he has to say. Okay.
Adding Asian businesses. You think you're about to boycott some shit? Just wait till they stop accepting EBT. You don't want to support Asian businesses? Who gives a fuck? Don't get your nails done. Don't wear one of them ugly.
So these are the racial tropes being spewed by non-blacks in the response to our deciding to, you know, close ranks. And this gentleman, you know, I mean, he might as well just be the typical bigot, just saying these horrible things about Black people. You know, EBT cars, what do you say? Michael Jordan shoes, fried chicken. What else?
Ugly ass weed.
You see?
And throw that PS5 in the fucking trash can. It's crazy to me to see the links that the Black community will go to prove their point that they're fucking mad and they need justice when a Black kid dies at the hands of someone of a different color. But nobody says shit when a Black kid kills another Black kid. The leading cause of death for Black kids in America is homicide by firearms. 90% of those homicides were done by other Black kids.
First thing, okay, so first of all, crime is related to proximity. That's the first thing you have to understand. So he really thinks he's doing something with this. But again, this is the racial rhetoric that we hear. Hey, you guys want to boycott? You need to focus on black crime. Hey, you guys have a obesity problem in Black. You need to focus on black crime. Everything relates back to that. It's used to kind of dismiss issues that we may have. Oh, you guys need to focus on Black. Well, your grass is too long. You got weeds in your yard. Yeah, you need to focus on black crime. As if everybody doesn't have the same issue. White on white crime, I believe, is like 88%. White on white. Hispanic is the same thing. Crime is proximity. But again, that's the racial tropes. Let's keep listening. Here's some more racial tropes spread around. I want you to hear what she's saying. I want you to hear what she's saying about Black people, as if we forgot, because it didn't start with Ashley Gonzalez. All right, these folks have decided to put this on the internet.
A very strong smell. And I'm not saying because you guys don't shower, you guys are nasty. It's because you guys just carry this really unique smell. And you guys probably don't notice it and you guys can't smell it because you guys grew up that way. But us, on the other hand, we notice that smell right away. And let me tell you guys, it's not pleasant. Second reason, you guys are extremely loud people.
Yo, what fuckery are you chatting?
Okay. So this Hispanic lady is basically saying Black people stink. Okay, all of us, even us that smell good. She said we stink and we loud. Okay.
Why African American are the least desirable to date in the whole US. First reason is because you guys carry a very strong odor, a smell, a very strong smell. And I'm not saying because you guys don't shower.
You carry a very strong odor. Is that like a Home Depot order where you need to be strong to carry it? Because are you trying to say odor or order? I'm confused. Okay, but this is an example of this white Latina racism. Okay, this is it. Okay, not to be confused with the Black Latinos and the brown Latinos or the Afro Latinos. And Latinos, and I've learned this, they have their own racial issues amongst themselves. But again, and they know what I'm saying is true, and they know. It's surprising to me to find out. I'm telling you, it was shocking. I didn't know myself. Okay. Matter of fact, I was shocked to know that all my little cool Mexican homies that I grew up with back in the day, I didn't even know Mexicans were racist. I didn't know Latinos in general were. I thought they were brown like us. Who knew? Nobody knew this. This is not something that they taught in school. They just showed up at our various elementary schools and middle schools and high schools back when I was a youngster. And I thought they were cool. Didn't know at all. Didn't learn they were racist until much later on in life. But let's let the videos keep playing. The videos speak for themselves. It's really not, they can say it for themselves. These are actually Latinos having conversations with other Latinos about their own issues. Let's listen.
This is your history, by the way. This is what your family went through. Now, I know it's easier to pretend things didn't happen. And before you say, oh, well, that was a long time ago, 1929 is not a long time ago. This is when your grandparents were born. This photo was taken in 1967. Your parents were born during this time. Because the only reason that your grandparents and your parents did not teach you Spanish was survival.
What's wrong with this fool? Calm down. That shit. That was back in the day.
So again, Latinos have had to deal with racism on their own here in the United States. And so the idea that they would be racist towards Black people is something that we find, I would say, intriguing, because it doesn't really make any sense to us. Why would you be racist towards us when you yourself, surely you understand what we've had to go through? So that would make you more empathetic and understanding and natural allies, but I guess not.
The community, we need to have a chit chat. If you haven't seen, go watch that video of Ashley Gonzalez, the police officer who decided to go on Snapchat and post an entirely racist rant using slurs and being a racist piece of crap towards the Black community. And the one thing that I noticed a lot in a lot of these videos in this matter was a lot of us commenting, not all of us. Like, oh my God, this is horrible, racist, but it's not all of us. But let's be honest, it's quite enough of us. And we see it.
You hear what
I
she's
understand that a lot of us have the mindset of like, it's not us, and it's not us, it's the majority, but enough of us do have that mindset. Let's not forget the Latino community in itself has a lot of colorism and racism within itself alone. And we don't call each other out enough. And we need to start.
Now this is a Latino woman.
Not me.
This is a Latino woman calling out other Latinos for their internal racism directed towards other Latinos and also directed outwards. So she's saying, hey, yeah, you're saying I don't stand with Ashley Gonzalez, but there are many of you saying, yeah, this is representative of how we feel. And so let's put this in context. When you have white Latinos complaining about uh, uh, Kai Cenat and him not having enough white Latinos in the Streamer University entry class, right? How can you complain when you are racist towards black people? This is run by a black man. And whether he's Haitian or Trinidadian, he's still a black man. So you still harbor these same racial feelings and animosity towards him. So why would you want to be associated with someone who you have directed prejudice and bigotry towards? Just think about that. And why would he want you to be associated with him when you openly have stated on your stream you use the N-word, which is a telltale sign that you harbor these racial beliefs? Think about that. Let's keep letting this lady.
I didn't say the word though. Instead of going like, damn, I am very worried for the victims, the black people that this woman has ever arrested, because she abused her power. There's no doubt in my mind that she probably arrested some people just because they were black.
No doubt in her mind. And I appreciate the honesty. And pretty much most black people would say, yeah, that sounds about white to us. That sounds about right to us. It sounds like something that a cop would do. And it's just shocking that it is now coming the package of a Latina, which is something that, we just find outrageous. Listen to this, and we'll move on to another video afterwards. You guys make sure you subscribe if you haven't already.
Blackness is absent in Latin America, but because a lot of Latin American countries built their national identities by pushing blackness away. Brazil and the DR are two really good examples of this. Different histories, different languages, but the same pattern. Both countries filter racial identity through a long list of labels that sit somewhere in between black and white. Mestizo, moreno, pardo, índio. With all these labels, the message ends up being that there's always a better label that's not black. And those ideas didn't come out of nowhere. In Brazil, after 300 years of slavery, the country promoted the idea that their racial mixing was proof that racism was not a problem anymore. Ironically, at the same time, Brazil also promoted whitening, encouraging European white immigration and promoting mixture as a way to dilute the country's blackness. In the DR, national identity was built around opposition to Haiti. So blackness was built around something over.
What you gather from this statement is that this young lady is saying that in Latin countries, Latin American countries, racism is institutional and cultural. Okay. So it's not just, somebody using a racial epithet directing it towards you. They're saying, no, this is institutional. This is how the society is structured. And so when you have a situation like that, it's going to be very nearly impossible to find a Latin podcaster who's not subject to that cultural institutional brainwashing that they receive. Okay. Again, somebody type black fatigue. You have black fatigue, yet you want to be on this black man streamer university. I just want you to just picture that. Okay. You have black fatigue, but you want to watch black people. You want to watch them perform, and you want to watch them play football and basketball, and you want to participate in their events, but you want black fatigue. What does that say about you? Okay, what does it say about the people that you say you despise so much that you want them removed, but you still want to be around them? That's crazy to me. If I despise somebody, I don't want to be around them. If I have fatigue, I don't want to be around those people. So what does that say about you? It says a lot. It says I guess you're lying to yourself, you're delusional. Who knows? But it's weird. All the black people in the chat room type weird. Shout out to my man, the International Storm. It's very weird, and it's confusing to black people. Keep that same black fatigue energy when it comes to, Streamer University and any other event that we have going on, whether we're talking about black music or whatever. Keep that same energy. It's crazy. This is just insane to black people. We we don't understand. Okay. I'm gonna let this gentleman cook, and we'll be back again in a minute. Let me see here. Let's see if I can get this to if you guys can hear this video, make sure you type #1 in the chat room.
It's a part of America. You guys, I made a couple videos saying that Mexican Americans have a hard time assimilating into American culture. And I got a lot of mixed reviews, you guys. But the one thing that I got in prevalence was the reason why Mexican and Hispanic Americans don't feel a need to assimilate into American culture is because Mexico and America are the same place. And what I have to say to that is stop comparing your inferior culture and your inferior country to my superior culture and my superior country. You guys, you are technically right. Mexico is a part of North America, but Mexico is not a part of the United States. It is a spit in the face to all the hard-working Americans who've built this country and all the hard-working Americans who built this country today. You come from a culture and a country where millions of people jump over the border every single year, every single couple of months, actually, to come live in America. You come from a culture and country that risk their lives, their very lives, to come to America. America and Mexico are not the same place. It's very simple. And you guys will say, oh, well, America's got like this because they have a history of colonization. So do you. Like, I don't know what they teach in Mexico, but it's obviously not the right thing. Like, Mexico colonized the land from the Native Americans with the help of the Spaniards. Like, for some reason, black people and Hispanic people just think the Native Americans just never existed. Like, Texas, California, and all these other places were just for Mexico, and that's it. So you have also a history of colonization. You just lost the war and weren't better colonizers than the Americans were. So now what you guys do is that you guys come here illegally. You guys have a bunch of children. Then you gaslight people into thinking that America is this place that which it would never have been if it wasn't for the Latinos and Hispanics. Like, no, bro, just because you sell chimichangas, tacos, and burritos doesn't mean you've helped build American culture. Oh, but Randy, what about all the history and Latino Americans that helped build this country? Yeah, what do you mean? Like, you mean like all four of them? You guys, like, the Latino culture and Latino population in America didn't reach double digits until the late 1990s. They didn't reach 20% until the late 2000s. Like, just because you were in this country doesn't mean your people helped build it. Like, in America, we speak one language, and that's English. In America, we wave one flag, and that's American flags. And don't get me wrong, like, it's not like I want to be a separatist. Like, it's not like I don't want Hispanics and Latinos to come into this country. It's just I want them to do it the right way. I want them to speak English. I want their kids to speak English. I want them to wave the American flag and not be so proud and have allegiance to Mexico. If you love Mexico so much, or what other country you come from in South America, go back to that country. But you won't. Why? Because it's shit. And all those birthright kids as well who claim that Mexico is their people even though they're born in the United States, why don't you go back? You don't, because it's shit. It's pretty simple. Be American, raise your kids to be American, and stop comparing your inferior culture to my American culture. I hope this helped.
Now, I let that video play through its entirety because I want to prove a point. Now, let's say that young man, and he calls himself the Black conservative. Let's say that Telemundo, somebody typed Telemundo, offered him a job as a broadcaster, where he would be broadcasting to millions of Latino and Hispanic viewers, right? Would you think that the Hispanic and Latino viewers would be in uproar? Because, again, maybe you agree that what he said was factual, but the way in which it was stated it seemed to be some racial undertones and some cries of racial inferiority. It would be offensive, okay? And so the same thing goes when you have someone like Cenat, who's a streamer, who's a world-renowned streamer. He has Streamer University. Why would he put his stamp of approval on a Latino or Hispanic content creator who repeatedly says things that are racist directed towards Black people, i.e. use of the N-word or degrading the Black community? Why would you think he would be so silly as to do that? He would lose followers. He would lose viewers. He's already had an issue with foundational Black Americans. Do you think we're going to sit and allow him to have some racist content creator from another ethnicity using the N-word day in and day out on his Streamer University? Do you think that's going to go? This is going to be controversy. So again, by allowing this gentleman to speak, hopefully you understand where we're coming from. Okay, hopefully you understand how offensive it is, and even whatever you may think. Okay, of what the gentleman said. Shout out to Andrew G. Rucker. Maybe you may agree with what he said. Bottom line is, this content is offensive. Okay, now at least I try to give you some facts and data to back it up. Some people just say stuff to just make you feel bad. All right, I try to be fair and balanced. Somebody type fair and balanced in the chat room. And here's another thing you need to understand: white people don't even, it's just to me, okay, to me, okay. This is what white people think. I want you to listen to what the white people say about you, the ones you want to be up on.
That's a red pill right there, that 99.9% of the population are retarded. It took you people 35 years to realize, oh, duh, black people are a problem. Oh, duh, black people are an issue. Black people commit crimes. In 35 years, when you same idiots realize that Mexicans...
This little lady right here, she don't like black people either, okay? But I want you to hear what she said.
And Hispanics are a problem too. This will be a majority brown country. Even more than it already is. It's practically a majority brown country as it is. The reason why I believe that Hispanics are more of a threat than black people is because I am going on the numbers. Black people are 14% of the population. They don't have that many children. They abort their children. They kill each other in gang violence, etc. And so that is a self-regulating problem. They will always remain around 20% of the around 14% of the population. Hispanics, on the other hand, millions of them are in this country. The numbers on the book say it's 20% of the population are Hispanic. I believe it's probably closer to 30 to 35%. That is just the ones that are just here. They are all having at least 4 children per family. They are not having the abortions the black people are having, and as mass deportations are off the table, more of them are going to be flooding into the country. So that means that is a problem. That is a population that is booming. The issue here is not about crime stats. The issue here is about ethnic...
Now again, I want to point out, you all Latinos, especially white Latinos, you have all this racial animosity that you direct towards black people. Okay, but listen to what this lady is saying. Listen to what this lady is saying. This lady is saying you all are a problem. You know, she's basically saying you're over there having a fortune. This is what you're dealing with. But you have all this smoke directed towards black people. So much so that you got to use the N-word on every string. I just want you to think about the rationale in that. And this is not the only white lady who says these things. And I find it intriguing. Okay, I find it quite intriguing. Here's some more of white people saying,
are you more proud to be Mexican or more proud to be American?
Mexican.
If you're more proud to be Mexican than you are to be American, why don't you live there?
Because you make money over here.
Right, but wouldn't you be more proud to be Mexican if you could make more money in your own country?
Actually, half of the majority of the people that actually come over here from there work and get their money to go build stuff over there and get their own property here. So,
but why don't they just do it there though? If you guys are proud,
it's hard.
Every time.
So, you got white folk that want you to go home. And look, I don't know what people are thinking in the chat room. All I'm trying to figure out is, why is it that you have so many Latinos who are insistent upon being racist towards black people, okay, but they have literally no smoke for anybody else? Okay, let's listen to this.
Others are just bad. They go bad. Something wrong. There's something wrong there.
This
The genetics are not.
This is what the president of the United States is saying. Okay,
A lot of them were let in here. They shouldn't have been let in. Others are just bad. They go bad. Something wrong. There's something wrong there. The genetics are not exactly. They're not exactly your genetic. It's one of those.
You understand what I'm saying? This is what the president of the United States is saying, and yet you have all this smoke for black people. Explain that to me. You understand what I'm saying? Look, Latinos, live, let live. You have a right to free speech, but my goodness, right? There should be some consequences, and I think that's what you're dealing with. There's got to be some consequences.
If you don't look like me, but you think because you're not black, it's not going to happen to you, it's going to happen to you. And the irony is your proximity to whiteness is never going to save you, and the call is always going to come from inside the house. Let's not forget that just a week and a half ago, they found a 19-year-old Latino boy hanging outside of a police department in Washington, D.C. We will never like you. We will never accept you. We will use you. We will abuse you. And then we will toss you aside. This is
what this white lady is saying. But you don't have any smoke for her. You don't hear black people saying things like that. Okay, yet we have to be the N-word on every stream. You need to understand something. Black people and white people in the United States have one thing in common. Okay, we are Americans. Okay, that's what you need to understand. And we've been here in this country for about 300-400 years, and many of you are just introducing yourself to the American culture and the American population. So you have no idea. Black people and white people have been living alongside each other, warring with each other and warring against others, playing football, baseball, basketball, interbreeding with each other, fighting with each other. Between the riots and the sex and the baby making, we're still here, and we're still two separate people. Between stealing from each other's culture, they stole the blues, we stole the NBA. You understand what I'm saying? They stole jazz, we stole the NFL. All right. And that's the thing that outsiders don't understand. Black and I don't want to go too deep into this because I don't want to get off this conversation. But what many white people will tell you is that this is a black and white country. Some may go so far as say, hey, this is part of the Anglosphere, which includes places like Australia and the UK, etc. Canada, America is one of those places. All right. In other words, they will tell you this is a white country. But you know who they always have to make room for? Foundational Black Americans. Okay. The reason is because we are Americans and we will fight them because we have blood in the soil. We have war fighters in the soil. We helped build this country. So we're not going anywhere. So even your stone cold redneck hillbilly white boy from way out in the sticks somewhere will say, yeah, well, you know, Black Americans have earned their right. Even Clarence Thomas in his 77-page dissent against the 14th Amendment being expanded to include anybody who was born here, say Black Americans were Americans before we were citizens. We are literally the only group of people in the United States who earn that right. And I say all that to say that this will always be a black and white conversation in this country. It is always going to be a black and white conversation. Everybody else is an other. You can be a citizen, but you will still be considered an other. You can be Asian, but you're still going to be an Asian. You can be Latino, but you're still going to be a Latino. I'm not saying you're not citizens. I'm just saying culturally speaking, many of you don't understand American culture. This is why when a lot of white people come to the United States, whether they be from Germany, Australia, they say, yeah, I have a place here. I know I'm Australian and I'm Dutch, but I'll be white and I'll have a place here. And so they fit in and they become Americans. That's odd, right? But it's also the same reason you have so many Caribbeans and Africans who say, well, yeah, I'll just be Black American, because they recognize that as a place which allows them to fully be embraced as American. It's a cultural thing. And it's something that I'm not going to spend an hour and a half explaining, but this is what this lady is trying to explain to you. You're never going to be like us. You're never going to be white. You're always going to be an outsider. She's pointing out that you're always going to be seen as non-white in the eyes of white people, no matter how close you are. This is what this lady said. I'm not saying it. Don't be mad at me. I'm just trying to explain to you all what's going on. Hopefully this will force you all to think and understand. My position is that race in the United States is never going to go anywhere. It's a strongly held belief. It's like the weather. It's just something you got to deal with. My ancestors, we didn't try to change white people's stereotypes. We just proved them wrong in the courtroom. We proved them wrong in the science laboratories. We proved them wrong on the baseball fields. We proved them wrong in the business rooms, in the boardrooms. This is what we did. Okay, you're not going to change how people feel about you based on their strongly held beliefs, even whether we're talking about religious beliefs or stereotypes. You just have to prove them wrong. This is what foundational Black Americans did. That's what we've done throughout the whole time. They said we couldn't fight. We turned out to be some of the best war fighters that the military's ever seen. The best, the Tuskegee, the Tuskegee Airmen, the Harlem Hellcats. This is what we did. Okay, let's keep listening.
A dead woman walking.
And the lie detector detected no lies. But anyway, guys, this is a very interesting conversation because although black and brown people, or black and Hispanic, black and Latino, whatever you want to call it, although we do not share the same history in general or the same struggle, like many people like to say, which is mostly black people, because we love to say that we're the same as all minorities for whatever reason. We have a very common delusion. Like, they believe in general that they are playing on the same team as white Americans in the same way that we generally believe that we are playing on the same team as they are. And it is so much evidence that that is not true. I feel like they make it known, like Hispanics make it known that we're not on the same team, and whites make it known that they're not playing on the same team as Hispanics. But it's like we
see, again, black people understand, you know, we okay. And I'm gonna say it again. I think America was better. And when I say better, I think it was better when it was just black and white. Be mad, be angry. And when I say better, I mean more cohesion. We worship the same God, even though in different churches. There was a lot of racism going on. We spoke the same language. We prayed at the same time. We ate the same foods. We celebrated the same holidays. We had more cohesion as far as how a country should be operated. It's very difficult to have a country being on the same page when you got a large group of people who, you know, they pray to a different God in a different way. They have a different perspective on the world. They have a different way of raising children. They speak different languages. It's hard to have a country unified like that. Yeah, you can come together on some issues, but those very hard, stern cultural issues that require a country to be able to come together so they can get through narrow times, you know, very difficult. You know, would we be able to fight World War II with this level of diversity, quote unquote, that we have in the country? I don't know. How you wouldn't be able to get that many people from all these different ethnic groups and religions to go and fight and die and free the civilized world from the atrocity of what you know, what was going on during World War II. You wouldn't be able to get that many. You know, the Italians fell in, the Irish fell in, black people fell in, American boys, black, white, or whatever, signed up to go fight a war for the betterment of the United States, for freedom. I don't think you could get that in 2026. Would the Hindus go? Would the Muslims go? I don't know. Would they go? I'm not sure. Of course, we've always had patriotic Hispanics and Mexicans. Shout out to them. But, you know, I'm just saying this country was more cohesive when it was a black and white country up until 1965, when we started letting immigrants come in. And they have different belief systems. You could be mad at me if you want to. I'm just pointing out to me what is pretty obvious. I don't think anybody with any good sense would disagree with what I'm saying. Now, we've seen a lot of videos, and I want to begin to talk to you all about something. Now, I said something earlier. This whole kerfuffle started because a young man, Kai Cenat, who is from Trinidad and Haiti, okay, by his parentage, born in New York. Latinos got mad because they're, you know, out of 120 some odd Streamer University inductees for 2026, they said it wasn't enough Latinos. Now, I find that ironic, okay, because the truth is Kai Cenat is Latino. All right, he's Latino because he's Haitian and Trinidadian. You're like, what? What are you talking about, Dennis? Me more specifically, he's Haitian in ancestry, and that places him within the broader definition of Latino, right? And some of you all are like, Latinos, the Haitians are Latino. What the hell you talking about? They black as hell. I know. Okay, that's your problem. That's why you're gonna learn something. I'm gonna learn you something. But again, let's just break it down piece by piece, okay? Haiti is part of Latin America, okay? And this young man's father is from Haiti. It's located in the Caribbean. Its official language is French. And Haitian Creole is largely derived from French. French is a Romance language, descended from Latin, okay? All right? That means Haiti falls within the historical, linguistic, and geographic definition of what? Latin America. So Kai Cenat isn't Hispanic because Haiti isn't a Spanish-speaking country, but he is Latino from his Haitian father. So the irony is that Latinos are accusing a Latino man, or at least half Latino man, of not selecting enough Latinos for a university that he created with his own money. Now, for my foundational Black American audience, somebody type FBA. Let me explain the difference between Hispanic and Latino. Hispanic refers to people who come from or whose ancestry comes from a Spanish-speaking country. Latino refers to people who come from a Latin America, and that includes countries in which the America shape, Spain, Portugal, or France, all these the colonial rule, those languages. Spain is Hispanic, but not Latino because Spain is in Europe. Okay, so they speak Spanish, so they're a Spanish country, but they're not Latino because it's not in Latin America. Brazil is Latino, but they speak Portuguese, so it's not Hispanic. Okay, Haiti is Latino, but not Hispanic because they're in Latin America, but they speak French, and all of those are Latin language, or should I say, the mother tone, that Haitian Creole mother tone is French, okay, rather than Spanish. So neither Hispanic nor Latino is a race. Latino can be Black, it can be white, it can be indigenous, it can be Asian, it can be mixed or anything else. And these labels describe geography and language and colonial history, not solely skin color. And so Haiti especially is important because it wasn't some minor participant in the history of Latin America. It was a big part. Haiti declared its independence on January 1st, 1804, after enslaved Black people, Africans, defeated one of the most powerful European armies in the world. Okay, and that was the French army. And it became one of the earliest Black republics. Okay, you had them in Brazil, you had them in Mexico, but it was definitely one of the earliest. And I did a broadcast on that. Look through the broadcast, you'll see it. It wasn't the first one, but it became one of the early. You had a kingdom in Brazil that was all Black. You had one in Mexico that was all Black. So we can't say it was the first, but it was one of the first republics, or one of the first ruling entities within the Black nations, I should say, in that world. But again, so when people pretend that Kai's Haitian background doesn't count Latino, they aren't merely making a technical mistake. They're erasing one of the most historically important Black nations in the Western Hemisphere. Now, he's not white Latino, okay? Because see, here's where the hidden truth inside the controversy is. Somebody type the hidden truth, okay? This is where the entire controversy begins to fall apart. By the critics' own accounting, roughly 20 to 24 of the approximately 120 creators selected for Streamer University were Latino or Afro-Latino, okay? Now, I want you to stop and think, all right, about that. Kai Cenat, a Black man of Haitian and Trinidadian heritage with Haitian roots, right, that place him within the broader Latin American tradition, selected approximately 24 Latino creators. That raises an obvious question. What kind of Latinos are they talking about? Because Afro-Latinos are Latino, okay? If that's the case, then they count. If Haitians are Latino under the broader historical definition, then Kai himself counts. If a Black Puerto Rican or Black Dominicans and other Afro-Latinos are Latino, then they count too. But see, this controversy is telling you, it suggests that for some critics, okay, those Latinos somehow don't satisfy the quota. It's almost as though the complaint isn't that they weren't, it's not that there weren't enough Latinos. The complaint is that they weren't enough of the particular image of Latino, the light-skinned, Spanish-speaking, Telemundo, telenovela version of Latino identity that dominates much of the mainstream media down there. Okay. And the Black Latinos become invisible in those medias. And see, we've seen debates like this before. Remember when the Black Panther came out, Wakanda Forever, a few years back, they cast Tenoch Huerta. He's an indigenous Mexican actor, and they put him in as Namor, right? You had a large part of the Hispanic social media, they erupted with arguments over whether he was the right representation for Latinos. And that debate exposed a long-standing conversation within many Latin American countries about race and colorism and indigenous identity and Afro-Latino visibility. It wasn't simply about nationality. It was also about who gets recognized as the public face of Latino identity. And this is why I believe this controversy deserves a closer look. Okay? If Kai's Haitian heritage is ignored, if Afro-Latino creators are discounted, if Black Latinos suddenly stop counting the moment representation is discussed, then we're not just having a conversation about Latino representation. We're also confronting the reality that race and color continue to shape how some people define who is considered acceptable Latino. And that's an uncomfortable conversation, but it's a real one. Okay, it's a real one that scholars and journalists and many Latino themselves have been trying to have for years. So perhaps the question isn't whether Kai selected enough Latinos. Perhaps the real question is whether a lot of these critics are not willing to recognize Black Latinos or Afro-Latinos at all. Okay, maybe that's the real problem. Now, again, one more historical receipt people don't like to discuss is how influential elements of the Mexican American political leadership in Texas deliberately pursued legal whiteness and tried to distance themselves from Black Americans during the civil rights struggle. Did you all know that? See, this is not speculation. There was a gentleman named Felix Terina, and he was a successful Houston businessman. He served 4 consecutive terms as the national president of the League of United Latin American Citizens. Somebody type LULAC in the chat room. Somebody type LULAC in the chat room. From 1956 to 1960, and was confronted in 1957 with a proposal that LULAC work alongside these Black civil rights organizations back in the 1950s. And guess what he said? His response was blunt. He said, let the Negro fight his own battles. Okay? Right? Let the Negro fight his own battle. This is one of their major leaders. And you know, his problems are not mine. I don't want to ally with him. This was his quote. Okay? At the height of the civil rights movement, we said, hey, you Latinos need to come on over here and get with us, man. So, you know, y'all are brown, right? That's what he said. Let the Negro fight his own battles. His problems are not mine. I don't want to ally with him. And that statement wasn't whispered in private by some powerless individual. It came from the national president of one of the most influential Mexican-American civil rights organizations in the country. Understand what was happening when he said it. Black Americans were challenging segregated schools and neighborhoods and voter suppression and racial terrorism and employment exclusion and an entire legal caste system. Mexican Americans also faced genuine discrimination, segregated facilities, and unequal schools. And LULAC itself had been founded in 1929 to confront injustices. But important parts of it, its early leadership often emphasized American citizenship, English language, and assimilation as and classification as white. So the strategy wasn't always they just wanted to work themselves up the racial hierarchy. Okay? That's it. They wanted Mexican Americans to be put alongside inside the white category. And at that exact moment, Black Americans were saying, hey, let's destroy these these racial disparaging, color caste system. Let's do away with it legally. And the Mexicans were saying, nah, we just want to move over there with them. Okay? We just want to move across that line. And that's why the phrase black and brown unity, it can't be used like some sort of magical spell to erase that historical record. Unity requires reciprocity. It requires both parties to take risks. It requires both parties to stand together when the consequences become dangerous. But when some Mexican-American leaders were offered an alliance with the Black civil rights organizations, they said, no, let that N-word fight his own battle, okay? I need y'all to understand that. Meanwhile, you have Black leaders like Medgar Evers shot in the back in his Jackson, Mississippi home in the driveway on June 12, 1963. You got Malcolm X, who was assassinated on February 21st, 1965. Martin Luther King Jr., he was assassinated at the Lorraine Motel on April 4th, 1968. Okay, you have, I mean, think about it. Fred Hampton, December 4th, 1969. He was 21 years old, pre-dawn raid in Chicago. You understand what I'm saying? This is what we were doing. Huey P. Newton, Bobby Seale, Eldridge Cleaver. You had Ashada Shakur, escaped prison in 1979. You understand what I'm saying? And now compare that to what Felix Terina and Lulac were doing. All right? Think about that. You see? They were trying to become white, literally, on paper. Well, so I just want you to think about that. We aren't Negroes. Treat us white. That was basically what they were saying. Think about that, man. So how you come together with folk like that, man? Shout out to Blue Baggins. And then here's another thing. And to understand this complicated historical relationship between Mexican-American civil rights organizations and Black Americans, or what I say foundational Black American civil rights, and the legal category of whiteness, we need to examine an actual federal case. It's called Mendez versus Westminster School District of Orange County. Okay, we're gonna learn something. Just hang with me. I'm gonna try to break this down. It's complicated stuff, but I know you all can understand that because this is important. This is what these folk fought for. They spent thousands and thousands of dollars fighting to win this case. See, this wasn't just a social media argument. This wasn't somebody giving an opinion on a podcast. This is a real class action lawsuit filed in federal court on behalf of thousands of children of Mexican and Latin American ancestry who were being forced into separate elementary schools in Orange County, California. And the trial court's decision was issued in 1946, and it's reported, write this down, 64 Federal Supplement 544. It's the United States Courts of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit affirmed the result in 1947. And the decision reported at 161 Federal Second 774. Okay? Now, again, I want you to understand that today, somebody type today they will say that this Mendez case is the blueprint that Black folk use, is the direct legal precursor of Brown versus Board of Education. But when you stop repeating that popular story, okay, because I've heard them say that, when you actually read the case and understand the context, that description falls apart. Mendez was unquestionably important. It helped Mexican-American children escape an inferior and humiliating school system. It exposed arbitrary racial discrimination masquerading as language instruction. But the plaintiffs didn't win because the federal courts declared that all racial segregation was unconstitutional. They won because California law hadn't authorized school districts to segregate Mexican children in the first place, okay? That distinction is at the heart of this case. The controversy began in 1944 in Soledad, when Soledad Vendoria, I'm a butcher the name, Veduari, he attempted to enroll, she tried to enroll her children and the children of her brother, Gonzalo Mendez. I want you to think about that. She's got her children and her brother's children, okay? And she wanted to put them into the local Westminster Elementary School. This is 1944. This is segregation. Somebody type Jim Crow in the chat room. Now, her kids were lighter skinned, okay? They had what is called a Basque surname, okay? The Basque surname, for you all who don't know, you all know where Spain is, right? And there's a little bit of land, I would say it abuts France, etc. That's the Basque area, okay? Basque, Okay, she had a Basque surname, not a Spanish, but Basque. But Mendez's children, okay, her brother, right? Sylvia and Gonzalo Jr. and Geronimo, these three kids, they were rejected from the same school that their cousins were going to. So her kids, Auntie tried to enroll us in school today, right? And they said, no, you can't bring them. Send them to the Mexican school. I want you to think about that. This is ugly, but it's revealing. These children were cousins. They came from the same extended family, yet one set of children was considered light enough, all right, and European looking enough to enter into the regular school, the white school. While the dark-skinned children, the black kids, the little black Mexican children, were said, no, you got to go to another school. These are cousins, same family. See, the school district wasn't simply evaluating language and ability. It was looking at appearance and complexion and ancestry and surname. In plain English, some of those children look close enough to be white to be accepted, and we're going to put you in with these little white kids. And the others looked too black. They were black, okay? They were dark, black, like Mexicans look when you go to Mexico, okay? Not all, but there's different kinds of Mexicans. So they were too black, all right? And the school districts, they tried to say, well, the Mexican children require separate instruction because they couldn't speak English well enough and to succeed in regular schools. But the evidence showed that the classification process was inconsistent because you had some light-skinned Latino children that didn't speak any English, but you let them in. And then you had the dark-skinned Mexican children that speak great English, but you let the light skin in, but you didn't let the dark skin in, and the dark ones speak better than English in some cases. All right, so the district was sorting the children out according to how Mexican they looked, okay, not by their surnames and not by how they sounded, okay, and then they tried to dress this racial sorting up as an education policy, and this wasn't a legitimate remedial language program. It was a color line with a schoolhouse wrapped around it. So anyway, Gonzalo and Felicitas and Miss Mendez, they initially tried to talk it out with the school authorities, you know, and they didn't begin by running the court. They asked the district to permit the kids in and the other other children who wanted to go, and the districts refused. And the Mendez family joined with the Estrada, the Gomez, the Palomino, and the Ramirez family to challenge 4 Orange County school districts. They literally filed a federal suit and class action so that these schools would allow these little black Mexican children to go into these white schools. Okay? They sued Westminster, they sued Garden Grove, Santa Ana, El Medino, and they had a civil rights lawyer. His name was David Marcus. I believe he's a Jewish fellow out of Illinois. I'm not sure. But again, they expanded this to a federal class action. He represented 5,000 children of Mexican or Latin American ancestry. And the plaintiffs alleged that the districts had created a coordinated system of class discrimination and it violated the 14th Amendment. And the kids were being separated based on their skin color. Now you say it's because of the Mexican ancestry, but all these kids are Mexican. The only difference is these are dark and these are light. Okay. Now the districts answered by insisting that they weren't practicing racial segregation. And according to them, they weren't anti-Mexican, right? They weren't institutions designed to weren't trying to isolate the darker children. All right. They were supposedly educational programs created to teach English to promote Americanization and prepare Mexican children to enter regular school. But somehow all the dark kids end up at this school over here, and the light kids ended up over here with the white folks. All right. So again, this is what they were dealing with. Now, on on February 18th, 1946, United States District Judge Paul J. McCormick, who ruled on behalf of the plaintiffs, he said, this is racism. You all are wrong. We see what you're doing, okay? And the district court concluded that the school districts had denied Mexican-American children equal protection by separating them based on their ancestry and appearance and assumed language, okay? But he probably focused heavy on the appearance, meaning they look black. We know what you're doing. Because when I look at all these pictures of these kids, all the ones that got sent over here were black, and the ones you kept were white. Now, Judge McCormick also rejected the idea that forced segregation was educationally beneficial. he concluded that Mexican American children were more likely to learn English through meaningful interaction with English-speaking classmates. In other words, you telling me that if I put these Mexican kids over here with all these other Mexican kids, they're going to learn English faster? That doesn't make sense. If I put them over here with these other kids who speak English, they'll learn English faster. That don't make sense to me, right? And so he prohibited the districts from continuing to, he prohibited the practice, okay? And California law at the time expressly authorized separate schools for certain groups, black and white per se, all right? But there was no separate group for Mexican kids. Okay, there was separate groups from Native American children that identified as okay. So under the existing statute, districts could segregate some Native American children and children who identified themselves as Chinese, or Japanese, or Mongolian. But California didn't pass a law authorizing districts to create separate schools for Mexican kids. So they didn't have a place for the Mexican kids. So if either you're going to the white school or not. So what you're doing is illegal because you're sending them to a Mexican school, and we haven't even made a rule. You shouldn't even have a Mexican school. Okay, so Mexican Americans were generally classified by law as white. That was just the fallback. You don't have we just gonna put them in with the white. They light enough, we'll put them there. Otherwise, we're gonna put them somewhere. We'll create a Mexican school, even though it's against the law, because we don't want these dark Mexicans here with our white kids. But what that meant was that the Orange County districts had created a system of segregation. They had created basically a default school for Mexicans, which was illegal. Okay, all right, they shouldn't have even done that in the first place. But again, the court didn't say no government may ever separate children by race. You understand? Because they had at the time children separated by race. So this is not like Brown versus the Board of Education. Board of Education said separate is inherently but unequal. Separate but equal is inherently unequal. But this case said, no, we can keep the separation, but because you don't have a school for Mexicans, you got to let these Mexican kids, black, light skin, whatever, you got to let them in the white school. That's what it said. So this is not the precursor to Brown versus Board of Education. And in that regard, the Mexican people won because they wanted their children to be around the white people. You understand what I'm saying? Does that make sense? All right, okay. Is that, you see how that's not Brown versus Board of Education? But see, the other thing is, the case also reflects a tension that appears repeatedly in Mexican American civil rights history. Do you fight to dismantle the racial classification system? Or do you fight to prove that your group belongs inside the white group or the protected white category? Those are not the same struggles. That's not our struggle. Okay. Nevertheless, the school district appeared, they appealed, and on April 14, 1947, mind you, we talking about this is the height of the Civil War. This is the height of World War II, and this is what the Mexicans are fighting for. We got a whole war going on, and they in the Ninth Circuit trying to fight to be white. This is how much it meant to them. And the appellate court agreed that the challenge segregation couldn't stand. Okay, so they agreed with the district court judge, but the Ninth Circuit deliberately avoided deciding whether Plessy versus Ferguson, you know, our old friend, the broader doctrine of separate but equal, was unconstitutional. So they still left the separate but equal intact. We're going to keep it separate. We ain't ready to put these blacks and these, we don't want to do that, okay? But the court didn't overthrow the constitutional foundation of racial segregation. It emphasized that California hadn't authorized local school districts to segregate Mexicans, children, and those districts couldn't simply invent the authority to do so because you don't want these brown, dark Mexicans over here with you. You're going to have to put these little brown, black Mexicans in there with the other Mexicans who are white. And all the white kids and the brown Mexicans will be together. But last thing we want to do is say that this separate but equal, not cool, because we got a whole bunch of black folk everywhere that will capitalize on that, okay? So Mendez v. Westminster never went to the United States Supreme Court. The Supreme Court didn't issue an opinion on that case. The Supreme Court didn't affirm the Mendez family's victory. The Supreme Court didn't overrule Plessy versus Ferguson, which says separate but equal. Okay, there was no nationwide constitutional decision. The nationwide transformation didn't occur until black folk and Thurgood Marshall on May 17, 1954, went to the Supreme Court and they decided Brown versus the Board of Education and declared that separate educational facilities were inherently unequal. And that's the difference between Mendez and Brown. It wasn't merely you understand what I'm saying? It wasn't just 7 years apart. It was a difference in a constitutional ambition. Mendez and LULAC and these Latino civil rights folk asked California school districts that, hey, you know, you got our Mexican children separated. They're cousins. Even though some are black and some are brown, they're all Mexicans, and you don't have a school set up for Mexicans, so they have to be with the white people. You see? And because you don't have a law saying that you have a separate Mexican school like you do the Mongolian children or the Chinese children or the Japanese children, you have to let them in. So they didn't change any law. They just capitalized on the nuance in the law. They capitalized on the technicality so that all the Mexican kids could go to the white school. So they fought to be with the white folk. You understand? Brown versus the Board of Education asked whether the state could constitutionally segregate children of any race. You see, we said this is racism, it's wrong across. We don't want to capitalize on racism. We don't want you to set up an all-black school. It is inherently unequal to separate children. That's racism. That's what the 14th Amendment said. Brown attacked the constitutional legitimacy of racial separation itself. Mendez didn't do that. The NAACP understood the difference. Thurgood Marshall and Robert L. Carter participated in the appellate stage through an amicus brief when he wrote to the Ninth Circuit trying to push the issue of, hey, you know what, I get what you're trying to do, but this whole thing is racist in the first place. That's what our lawyers did. Howard educated Thurgood Marshall School of Law, or Howard educated lawyer Thurgood Marshall. What they were trying to do was attempt to push the Ninth Circuit toward a much broader principle. Segregation itself inflicted constitutional injury, regardless of whether the government claimed the separate facilities were equal, because we know it's not equal. All right? But the Ninth Circuit refused to go that far. And Robert Carter later described that decision as legally regressive. He said that was horrible because its logic suggested that segregation should stay in place. It could be valid. Whenever state law expressly authorized it, that's all you needed. They just didn't do it. Hint, hint, California Congress, Congressional, why don't y'all just say make a Mexican school, then come back in a year or two? But we didn't give them a chance to do that. Okay? The court invalidated the Mexican schools without invalidating the legal doctrine of separate but equal that allows states to continue segregating black children. And basically, the court opened the door for Mexican children while leaving black children standing outside. So now the Mexican children can go to the rich white school, but the black children can't. You see what I'm saying? So they left us hanging. Somebody type black and brown in the chat room. Are you learning something? They don't even talk about this in law school, not in this detail. Okay? But see, that also explains why the NAACP didn't make Mendez a central precedent in the Brown versus the Board of Education. The cases had similarities, both involved children harmed by separate schools, both involved educational evidence, both demonstrated that isolation damaged learning and citizenship. But Thurgood Marshall participated in both of the struggles, and Earl Warren, the governor of California, when the state later repealed the school segregation provisions, he eventually became the chief judge of the United States and wrote the unanimous opinion in Brown versus the Board of Education. So the former governor ended up becoming a Supreme Court justice and wrote that because he probably knew back then the Mendez case was flawed. Okay? See, here's the thing. All right? In the Mendez case, they were saying, we're white too, so let us in school with you. Black people weren't trying to do that. We weren't going to try to pretend to be white to escape segregation. We were going to be black and you were going to accept us how we are. That was the thing. Okay? None of that takes away from the courage of the plaintiffs in that case, in the Mendez case, Mr. Gonzalo, or Ms. Mendez, or any other plaintiffs' family. They appreciate them, right? The children were being humiliated and stigmatized and denied meaningful educational opportunities. And the parents challenged the four districts, and they invested time, they invested money and energy into a lawsuit against a very powerful government institution. And they won. They got what they wanted. They got a chance to go to school with white people. Okay? They got the basically default white. That's basically what the case said. Okay? So it wasn't a symbolic victory. All right? But the bottom line is, if you were dark, you were Mexican and therefore excluded. And the law said they weren't supposed to be treated like black people. That's basically what it said. I know, lawyer joke. Never mind. I know y'all don't get that, but I like it. Okay, I like it. Are you learning something? Did y'all figure that out? Did y'all understand that? Okay. So in summary on that, the courthouse door opened for Mexican Americans partly because the legal system could still call them white, and foundational Black Americans had to force the country to tear the entire door down off its hinges. Now, I mentioned something earlier, this pursuit of legal whiteness. Somebody type legal whiteness in the chat room. Are y'all bored? Let me know. I think you're learning something, because we got to talk about this, right? And I think I've done a great job for 2 hours and 20 minutes. We've talked about a lot. But, and I hope you appreciate the time and energy I put in this to kind of help you put in some historical context, because this is a country of laws, not men or feelings or emotions, okay? And so we have to understand the history of the law. Now, I talked about Operation Wetback. Somebody type Operation Wetback in the chat room. In legal whiteness, okay, it didn't make them Anglo-American, okay? The pursuit of legal whiteness never truly protected Mexican Americans or any Latinos from being racialized or exploited or detained or expelled whenever the United States decided their labor was no longer politically convenient. And, that is the central lesson of the federal immigration campaign, officially known as Operation Wetback. It was a government program whose very name used a degrading slur against Mexican people. And the operation was formally launched in June 1954 under President Dwight D. Eisenhower, Attorney General Herbert Brownell, and Immigration and Naturalization Service Commissioner Joseph May Swing, a retired Army lieutenant and general. This is after World War II. This is when we no longer, the boys are back from overseas. We don't need all this labor that we used to help in the war effort. Things are going great for the average American. All right, we're going to get rid of these Latinos. That's what we used them and got rid of them. Okay. All right. Again, it used military style. This is what they did to these folks. It used military style planning, mobile task force. They had roadblocks. They had workplace raids. Hint, hint. They had bus raids, airplane raids, train raids. They had detention centers. They put them in cargo ships. They remove people. They presume were documented, a Mexican national. Sound familiar? Huh? And understand something, from the beginning, Operation Wetback did not emerge out of nowhere. It was part of a larger and deeply cynical labor system. The United States wanted Mexican labor, but it didn't necessarily want Mexican workers to acquire lasting security. Shout out to Intricately Tangled. You understand? They didn't want them to have political power. They didn't want to have permanent membership. Shout out to Lobito. All right. During World War II, the United States and Mexico created the Bracero program, which brought temporary Mexican laborers into the country to work primarily in agriculture. Remember, all our boys is overseas fighting the Germans. Okay, American growers depend. We needed these folk. Did you know white folk used to? I had an uncle. He was a white dude. He was married to my auntie, my dad's sister. He used to pick tomatoes. Ain't that some white man picking tomatoes in California? Him and his whole family used to be out there bent over picking tomatoes. Ain't that something white? Did y'all know the white people used to have to pick fruit and vegetables in the field? And then they went to war and they brought the Mexicans over to pick the fruit and vegetables. Did y'all know that? Y'all don't understand. White folk had it tough, especially the Irish. The Irish called hell. The Irish were the first N-words. The Irish were the N-words of the English. Did y'all know that? The Irish were treated like N-words by the English. Did y'all know that? And the Italians got treated worse than them. Did you know the largest lynching of group lynching was in Louisiana? And they were lynching some Italians. Did you know that? ran all the Italians out of Louisiana. That's why they ended up in New York. They originally were in Louisiana. I want you to think about that. Crazy. When you actually start cracking open these books and looking at history. History is crazy. It'll mess your head up. Have you really thinking like you thought you really knew something? Then you're like, wow. And you can't run from it. You got to accept it. Every group of people who came to this country had to deal with some prejudice and racism. They had to deal with it. Nobody escaped it. Did you know the Italians got treated bad by other Italians? There's some Italians right here to tell you. Their grandfather came to this country and the other Italians treated them horribly. They call them all kind of mean names. Paisan, everything. That is not a term of endearment. But bottom line is, Operation Wetback, when we talk about the Hispanics, Operation Wetback wasn't simply some neutral law enforcement response to a spontaneous migration. American agriculture interests have spent years creating this enormous demand for low-cost Mexican workers, and the employers benefited from the workers whose status made them vulnerable, while the government officials tolerated or facilitated the government or labor when the crops needed to be harvested. And we needed them, so we tolerated them, okay? And the Mexican worker, somebody, you know who Julio Cesar Chavez is? You know who that guy is? But anyway, he was one of those rights workers. But anyway, they concentrated, they would go down and sweep places in California, Arizona. And in June 1954, it expanded to Texas. They went down to the lower Rio Grande Valley, and you had these people, these federal agents were setting up roadblocks, and they were just snatching people up, and they shipped and carried deportees from Port Isabella, Texas, nearly 2,000 miles to Veracruz, Mexico. And the government deliberately transported people deep into Mexico so that they wouldn't be able to come back to the United States. They didn't just push them across the border. Okay, and this wasn't some calm administrative process. This was militarized, okay, militarized. All right? There was no fair hearing, there was no contacting your lawyer, none of that. Okay, you didn't get a chance to get your belongings. You weren't getting your last check. Okay? No, you didn't get comfortably put on the bus. None of that. They were literally rounded up in large numbers, wherever they may be. They were rapidly processed, and they were confined in some sort of holding pen. Okay? Confined in some holding pen and removed under what we would call coercive conditions. And some people were deported without any meaningful opportunities they couldn't even contact their family. They just disappeared. They couldn't get their property. Imagine you parked your car out there in the field. Your car is gone. Your money is gone. Right? There was no challenge in the government. Someone was dropped off in unfamiliar parts of Mexico without food, employment, transportation, no communication, and nowhere to return to their family. Their families didn't even know where they were. This is what the government did to these Mexicans in 1954 when they were done with them. Okay? They had to deal with the elements. It was heat, it was hot, harsh transportation conditions, deliberate delocation. This wasn't some convenient flight where we're going to drop you off in your home country. No, we're going to drop you off in the middle of Mexico somewhere, and you don't know anybody, so you can't make it back. Now, they don't know the exact number of people that were removed. You understand? Now, the government says that it was, somewhere between 1.1 and 1.3 million. But those numbers are combined. Those are formal removals. Okay, we're not talking about the people they just gathered up together and ran up out of here. That's what you need to understand. The people they just gathered up and ran out of here. The formal removals. Imagine that. But again, this is what the chase for whiteness. You have a lot of Latinos who get the nerve to get online and say bad things about black people. This is what you're chasing. Okay? This is what your chase for whiteness causes for you to fail to understand. A court could classify Mexican American as legally white for one purpose, and a civil rights organization could insist that Mexicans belong within the white race. And a lawyer could emphasize Spanish ancestry and European bloodline and citizenship eligibility and assimilation. None of that's going to guarantee none of that guarantees that an immigration officer or a sheriff or an employer or a judge or a white political majority would actually treat a brown Spanish-speaking person as an Anglo-American. Legal whiteness is not the same thing as social whiteness. Social whiteness is not merely checking a box on the government form. If I'm looking at a person from Mexico who says they're white, and I'm looking at somebody from Germany who says they're white, I'm going to say that the German is the white person, okay? You might be legal on, I believe Egyptians are legally white, but would any of you all believe that they're white? All my regular white people. Shout out to all the regular white people. Where you at? Where my regular white people at? The Polish, the German, the Irish, the Scottish, the Swedes, the Norwegians, the English, regular whites. Not these exotic whites. Shout out to all the exotic whites. You know, the Portuguese, the Argentinians, right? All you exotic whites. You are not quite white. But anyway, joke, right? Joke. Anyway, shout out to everybody who's hanging out with. But again, so let me get back to this. So put this all in context, okay? Now, again, Mexican Americans could be legally classified as white and still be stopped, searched, segregated, deported, or told to go back to Mexico. And the law could call them white men and classify them however they so choose, right? But it didn't matter. And Operation Wetback exposed that contradiction brutally. Mexican American organizations, you could try to distance yourself from Black Americans. You can call us all the N-words you want to, okay? But you're not white, okay? You can keep saying the N-word all you want to, and you can try to say, hey, see, we can do it too. Let us join. It's not going to stop your Mexicanness, okay? It's not. And that's what you need to understand. And this is why we think you all are so silly. And again, when we talk about, when we put it in context and we talk about Cenat, okay, you use this N-word, you say these horrible things, even your own Hispanic people are saying, stop doing that. And now you're suffering the consequences of using that racial epithet. Stop using the N-word. It's derogatory. Don't do it because we're the only friend you could possibly have. Okay? Think about that. I need you all to understand, foundational Black Americans occupy a fundamentally different historical position. We did not immigrate to the United States as voluntary population asking to enter an already completed nation. Our ancestors were here before the Constitution. We were here before the federal government existed. And before the states entered the Union, we were here. Before the country legally recognized us as citizens, we were Americans. We cleared the land. We cultivated the crops. We built the industries. We generated wealth. We did the war fighting. We created institutions and transformed the constitutional meaning of citizenship while being denied citizenship ourselves. Whether we're talking about the Supreme Court case that denied that denial explicitly in Dred Scott v. Sanford, March 6, 1857, 3 years before the Civil War, the court declared that Black people, whether we were enslaved or free, mind you, Black people had been free for 400 years, owning land since 1492. We were doing our thing, ran for government. We literally helped found this country, okay? But we couldn't be citizens. Think about that. So for 3 years, well, actually from 3 years until after they came up with the 14th Amendment, that time period, we weren't citizens. We were Americans and not citizens. We went from being citizens to non-citizens to having to get a 14th Amendment to get us our citizens back, but we are Americans the whole time. Again, that decision didn't treat Black Americans as foreign immigrants. It did something even more vicious. It treated a population deeply rooted in the country as a permanently excluded class from the political community that helped build it, okay? It took the Civil War and the destruction of slavery and the Civil Rights Act of 1866 and the 14th Amendment to overturn that legal order by the Supreme Court. You understand? And it was the 14th Amendment ratified in 1868 that declared all persons born are naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof as United States citizens. And that was what overran it directly repudiated the Dred Scott case. Okay, and here's what I need you to understand. Okay, foundational Black Americans, again, I'm gonna say it again, we were Americans before we were legally recognized as citizens. We were already part of the country's population. Okay, we were integral to the economy. We were integral to our war effort, the history, cultural, and to the country's physical development and expansion. America didn't invite us in after the nation was built. It built the nation through our coerced labor while denying that we belong to it. Okay, citizenship didn't create our American identity. We were Americans. Citizenship, citizenship belatedly acknowledged an identity that already existed and had been purchased through generations of hard work. Somebody type work hard in the chat room. You understand what I'm saying? This is us. And this is why, this whole pursuit of this Anglo-whiteness by all these foreign groups has always been interesting to us because it's futile. Again, whiteness was never simply a neutral legal classification available to anyone who could just make the right argument. It was political system. Shout out to RNOILU88. It was decided, it was a system that decided who would be presumed American and who would remain conditional no matter what. And Mexican Americans could be called white in court all you want, but you're never going to achieve that whiteness, not culture. This is a social thing I'm talking about. Legally, you might be, but so do y'all understand the difference with what I'm saying? I know this is hard. It's hard to pick this up in 2.5 hours, but I'm trying to get it to you. Okay, I'm trying to help you understand, and no matter what these people say, all the N-words, all that is never going to work. Okay? Bottom line is when you have segments of Latino American leadership, and you hear them talk about, this, that, and the other, and they try to distance themselves from Black people, it never works. It always comes back to hit them in the face, which is what you see happening right now. You got Cenat who's saying, you know what? I can't piss these foundational Black Americans off, so we can't have any Latinos who use the N-word on the internet. And we've searched and searched, but the only ones we can find are these 2 white Latinos and 20 Black Afro-Latinos. This is the consequences. Okay? Now, there's another one I want to talk about, which is even worse. It's even worse than Operation Wetback. Okay? They still try to bury it today. You guys know who the Texas Rangers are? Somebody type Texas Rangers in the chat. Do y'all know who the Texas Rangers are? Eh? Do you know who the Texas Rangers are? Listen to this.
Is a really great reminder of why we can't let Texas history get whitewashed. I'm the co-host of Tejano Talks, along with millionaire attorney Domingo Garcia, and we're done with the BS. We're actually going to call it out. We're going to talk about Texas history, financial wellness, mental health, everything that's relevant to empowering Tejanos to take their power back. I mean, we all know, for example, in 1955, James Callahan went into Mexico, a Texas Ranger, under the guise that he was going to catch Native American raiders. Bullshit. He was there to recapture slaves, and we're done with those lies. So if you're done with those lies, follow us here on Tejano Talks. We're releasing our first full episode on May 1st. We have guest celebrities like Gina Hinojosa, James Talarico, and many more to come. We're going to be on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, all TikTok, Instagram, all of the platforms as Tejano Talks. I'll see you there.
All right. So Tejano is another word for Texas Mexican, a person from Texas of Mexican descent. Okay, so that's what he's saying. But what I want to talk to you guys about, and I'm happy that people are studying the history. I don't think we should run from history. I don't think we should run from the atrocities. I think we should just really just deal with it. And that helps people come to some conclusions. I'm gonna say this: everybody has blood on their hands, all right? Because right along with those Texas Rangers, you had a lot of Buffalo Soldiers. Those are black men, former enslaved men who fought for the Union Army, who helped fight the Mexicans and the Native Americans. Everybody has blood on his hands in this country, okay? Now, again, the Texas Rangers are legendary, but there's also this incident called the massacre. And I believe in Spanish, you refer to it as La Matanza, okay? The massacre or the slaughter. And this didn't happen in some distant country. It happened right here in Texas, largely along the Texas-Mexico border during the revolutionary turmoil of the 1910s, between approximately 1910 to 1920. And it got especially intense between 1915 and 1919. Some of you all who are 55, 60 years old, your grandparents were alive at that time. And the Texas Rangers and the local sheriffs and deputies and soldiers and ranchers and some just armed vigilantes, some Anglo vigilantes, they terrorized Mexican nationals and American citizens of Mexican descent under the banner of law and order, okay, and border security and suppression of banditry. And so the historians still debate the exact number of Mexicans or people of Mexican descent that were killed, right? There's never been an official record, but bodies disappeared, families fled. The same authorities accused of committing this violence control the records, but the serious estimates range from hundreds to several thousand. Several thousand Mexicans and Tejano men killed during that decade. That's not a few bad officers making an isolated mistake. That's a system. You see, being Mexican, being Spanish speaking, owning land near the border, or simply being in the wrong place at the wrong time could make a person a target. Okay, and this is why they said we don't want our children speaking Spanish. A lot of Mexicans will tell you, hey, we were told not to speak Spanish, speaking Spanish was bad, and this is part of the reason so they can hide their identity. Okay, now the official report excused the violence and the silence that followed helped erase it. Okay. And now the political and see, here's the thing. I want to put this in context, okay? The Mexican Revolution began in 1910 and it produced instability and armed conflict and migration and smuggling and these sort of things. All right. In 1915, the so-called Plan of San Diego called for the uprising against Angelo. The bottom line is, you know, you had these white folk, okay, and you know well, let me say it like this: in 1915, the so-called Plan of San Diego called for an uprising against the white-controlled portions of the American Southwest, and you had a bunch of armed raiders. They carried it out, and did some attacks on South Texas, and people got killed. Property was destroyed, and that's all they needed. Okay. So those events were real, but the law enforcement is supposed to identify the guilty. It's not supposed to just go punish the whole ethnic group. You understand? And so again, that's justice. That's not how you're not supposed to just go take it out on a whole bunch of people. Instead of carefully distinguishing between the armed raiders and the innocent residents, you had these Texas Rangers and vigilantes just responded. And they just did a collective punishment. Mexican men were arrested. People were unalived. People were disappeared, taken into isolated areas. They were killed. This is the mass. This is what they did. You understand what I'm saying? I want you to understand that. One of the clearest examples was the killing of Jesus Bazan and Antonio Longoria in September 1915. He was a Bazan. Bazan was a landowner and Longoria was his son-in-law. And they were traveling near their homes in Hidalgo County when the Texas Rangers shot them without warning. They just popped them, okay? And their bodies were left exposed beside the road and discovered by relatives days later. No trial. This is the police doing this. No conviction, no credible finding that either man had committed a crime or deserved death. They were just some landowners on their land. And the Rangers acted as investigators. They investigated themselves, right? They investigated themselves. They acted as prosecutors, as judges, as jurors, as execution. And the message sent to Mexican and Tejano families was unmistakable. Your life could be taken, and nobody in authority would require anybody to explain. Okay? So, again, this is what these folk are dealing with, right? And yet they have, I just want you, but we the N-words, though. I say we're the N-word. Black folks are the N-words. This is how you would treat it. Okay? Now for generations, we've known about this. We romanticize the Texas Rangers in movies and televisions, and many of them have served honorably. You have some famous black Texas Rangers, all right? But they experienced armed men arriving in the darkness. This is what the Mexicans, they're taking away their husbands and fathers and sons and brothers and leaving those men dead. 15 people were taken, 15 people were denied hearing, 15 people were denied trial, 15 people were executed. This is what we're dealing with, all right? Now, I think we've done enough work today. I want to take the opportunity to read these super chats, and then I'm gonna close this thing out, but I wanna make sure that I give you all something to go with, and I don't wanna burn y'all out. We're almost at the 3-hour mark, and I wanna go ahead and read some of these super chats to get these out the way. Shout out to everybody who has been here with me. Sharonda Sewell became a YouTube member. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. You did it 2 times. Omar of the 2156. Thank you so much for the super sticker. Let's see here. We got Black Sand 6368. If it's okay, say call your boss. Call your boss one. Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Let me see. Hassan Irby, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Earmuffs, thank you so much for the super sticker. William Lynch became a YouTube member. Thank you so much for your membership, all the members. Shout out to you, William Lynch. And appreciate you, 578. Penelope, thank you for gifting 10 podcast memberships to everybody. Good looking out. Kendrick said, we don't want to hear you say no more. We sure don't. Thank you so much, Penelope. Old Wise One, thank you for the $2 super sticker. Also, the International Quiet Storm, great broadcast, Uncle D. You got the mad in the chat. Yeah, they was hot. But I cooled them off with that truth. Andrew J. Rucker, thank you for the $9.99 super sticker. Go Gadget, thank you for all you do, Mr. Spur. No, thank you. Thank you for all you do, Mr. Spur. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I humbly appreciate you all being here with me. Never in the history of ninjadom has the Mexicanos ever said we need more FBAs in the function of the right. Yeah, y'all don't ask for us. You don't ask for us at all. Y'all just want to come crash our stuff. You know what I'm saying? We've been pretty open, but now you're like, nah, you need to chill out. Anyway, shout out to, let me see, Blue Baggins. Felix Terhina didn't allow blacks in his restaurants. His Mexicano ass had whites only politics. Now that is hilarious. Yeah, and, so, how you this is a real ugly history Latinos have, and that proximity to whiteness is not really doing too well by you guys. Shout out to Intricately Tangled, always learning. Thanks for what you do, DS. I appreciate you, family. Also, Lobito, learning, good looking now. Also, let me see here. Learn so much from you, Unc. Thank you. Young Black Americans should definitely seek this. Yeah, this is American history. Let's not run from it. Let's embrace it. Let's accept it for what it is, and let's move on for it. Okay, that way is no secret. All right, I believe in embracing it and dealing with it like adults. Shout out to RNO. Learn so much from you, Unc. Thank you. Young Black Americans should definitely seek knowledge. They should. Read that one twice. All right. These were Chinese lynchings too. Self-made SM 2068. Good looking out. Also, K of Spades. Thank you so much for the YouTube membership. Appreciate you. You did it twice. That's nice. I've fallen awake. Thank you for the knowledge. I learned something. Good looking out. I'm glad you learned something. Good job, sir. Like always. Thank you so much. All right. I appreciate that. Now, let's go ahead and talk this out. Okay, we're gonna talk it out. We need you all to let's talk this on out of here. Let's get ourselves. We're gonna talk it on out. All right. So again, the title of this broadcast was White Latinos Say Black Latinos Don't Count. The real Cenat streamer, Univerity. You know, I want to close by bringing all these points together because they're not separate arguments. They're parts of the same contradiction. What we're watching in 2026 is not new. America has repeated some version of this cycle for generations. This country welcomes Mexican and Latino labor when the economy needs workers and employers and recruits them and profits from them and their vulnerability and builds industries around their labor and allow families and communities to take root. Then the economy shifts and the politics change and the politicians need an enemy. And then suddenly the workers who were necessary yesterday are described as invaders today. And we saw that during the Mexican reparations of the Great Depression, Operation Wetback in 1954, the expansion of enforcement through immigration reform and control in 1986, and far more aggressive deportation framework created in 1996. And the escalation beginning in 2017 and the machinery being turned back on when Donald Trump was elected in 2025. Okay, in the name of the policy, the president, the legal theory, the uniforms may change, but the pattern remains the same. America invites Latino workers and extracts labor, profits from their vulnerability, racializes the population, and removes people when their presence becomes politically inconvenient. Historically, a major Mexican-focused exclusion or removal campaign has appeared roughly once every generation. That's once every 20 to 25 years. That's when every 20 to 25 years, America decides we want to remove Latinos. That's why I'm just telling you the truth. This is the historical pattern. Now, after 1996, the law created a permanent deportation infrastructure. The cycle became shorter because the government no longer had to build machinery from the ground up. And the detention centers and the databases and the deportation office and the expedited removal authority and the buses and the aircrafts and the contracts and the court procedures and the enforcement networks and the surveillance systems were already in place. And the machinery never disappeared. It merely went quiet until the politics changed and the rhetoric intensified and the raids began and the same population was blamed for the conditions the United States helped create. You see that little lady, what she said? The Mexicans are breeding having four at a time. That's the rhetoric. That's not simply immigration enforcement, it's labor extraction followed by political disposability. And see, this is where the contradiction becomes impossible to ignore. While the United States periodically reminds Latinos/Mexican Americans their acceptance may remain conditional, segments of the Latino community continue to try to prove their fitness for whiteness by disrespecting Black people. On top of that, y'all attack Afro-Latinos. You try to erase the Black Latinos from the definition of representation. You use anti-Black rhetoric. You adopt the N-word. You emphasize your quote-unquote Spanish or European ancestry. You insist that they're culturally different from Black Americans. And you deserve a better position in the racial hierarchy. In other words, while America is periodically preparing the bus, some of them are still arguing over whether they are white enough to sit near the front. And that's a tragedy. They're chasing a category that has repeatedly failed to protect them. Legal whiteness didn't protect Mexican families during La Matanza. It didn't save men and boys executed, prevented and segregated schools. It didn't do that. Didn't stop repatriation campaigns in the 1930s. It certainly didn't block Operation Wetback or shield American citizens or Mexican-American people from being questioned and detained and pressured to leave in 2025, 26, did it? You get treated like foreigners. And yet you still want to call Black people the N-word. Then you get mad when you get somebody say you can't be part of this streamer university thing because you're racist. Anti-blackness from Mexicans or Latinos is irrational. You got white and light-skinned Latinos appear to believe that if they distance themselves from black people hard enough, if they insult black folk loud enough, if they try to erase their Afro-Latino roots, their black grandma, somebody type black abuela, somebody type abuela in the chat room, they just hide her picture on the, on the fireplace, they just hide it behind the other pictures, that it'll just go away. You think that Anglo-America is going to accept you? You think they'll finally grant permanent entry into whiteness? Because history keeps saying no. You think the more you get on the internet and talk about the N-words and how when you got black fatigue, you think that's going to make white people accept you more? Is that what you think? Did it work? All it did was make adversaries out of foundational black Americans. And nobody, these black folk know they better not. I don't care if they're from Africa or the Caribbean. They're going to fall in line because there's nothing they can do about it. We are whooping their butt right now. I want all of you folk to understand, your little Caribbean friends and your little African friends, they are catching hands from foundational black Americans. We have them on the ropes. They don't know what to do. We're cutting tethers. Somebody type cut the tether in the chat room. We're putting them out there on their own. They're on a little dinghy by themselves. Oh, no, I need to get, no, you by yourself. You learn your lesson. Cenat bet not have some racist Latino on there talk about the N-word. You bet not. He gonna get canceled. Look. You can try to identify as white. You can try to be classified as white. You can get the census changed. You're still not white. And it's not going to help if you're making enemies out of black Americans, because we are not the ones. Some of you all don't think we have power. Some of y'all don't think you're offended that we will defend ourselves and exclude you. Your strategy is going to keep failing because you can't obtain permanent security by helping maintain somebody else's hierarchy. And that's not going to erase your vulnerability by pushing black people beneath you or trying to convert conditional acceptance into ownership by repeating the prejudices of people who created the system. Oh, black people on EBT. Did you hear that fool with the nose ring earlier? You repeating the same rhetoric. If we don't take it from white folk, what make you think we're going to take it from you Latinos? You white Latinos. And I'm not even talking about the black and brown. Like they dealing with the same level of racism. That's crazy. It's like light-skinned black people being prejudiced against dark-skinned black people. How is that going? We're going to fight about that. You know what I'm saying? And here's something else crazy, man. This is what's crazy to me. Okay? What makes this pursuit even more absurd? Where are my white people at? I want all the white people to come to the front of the room. I want my real white. I want the dirty white boys with skateboards. I want y'all back. I want white boys that used to listen to death metal. Where are y'all at? I want the tobacco chewing white boy. Where are y'all at? I want y'all to come back. White people have their own heritage. Did you know that? They didn't call it white. They call it Scandinavian. You understand? I want you to listen to some white people that are trying to reclaim their own heritage. Listen to this.
Party with these Scots and take your mind off of the Red Sox for a little bit.
Goddamn, this was the best fucking thing that happened to this city. These Scots, all these Scots here, man. I have 18.5% Scots following me, and every day I get more and more and more. I love these people. And Uncle Fern, I'm saying right now, a year from today, I'm going to Scotland and I'm going to do videos over there And I'm going to have a hell of a time. I'm going to go for 10 fucking days over there. These people are the best. They're just like Bostonians, man. They know how to party. What a fucking party I'm seeing here at the Faneuil Hall here today. Fucking beautiful to see. The only issue I have is the city of Boston. They had to have more bartenders in their goddamn places. There's not enough bartenders here to support the people that are here. I'm trying to get into the bar to have a beer. My mouth is dry. I can't even have a beer. The World Cup. Thank you. Look at this. I had
to go bear hunting after this. He's gonna go bear hunting for a bear. This is, look, you hear this white man? He is excited. He said, I'm 18% Scot and I'm going to Scotland. White people are claiming that they are claiming their heritage. You understand? They want their heritage back. They abandoned it when they came over here to be white, and now they want it back.
Shifts over time. Like, my family wasn't white. My family was Italian. They were disparaged when they first came to America from Europe. And my grandfather used to tell me terrible stories of what happened to him when he was a boy living in America as an Italian. They treated them the same way terribly racist people were treating people from Guatemala that sneak in here. It's the same kind of thing. Yeah. And then after a while, they sort of integrated, and now I'm white.
Yeah, now you're just a white person.
Now I'm just a regular white.
And you experience a loss. All the white people, you experience a loss when you gave up your rich Italian heritage or your Scots-Irish heritage to become white. You gave up something tremendous. Okay, you gave up something. Look how excited these white folks are about their white heritage. Listen to this. This is what you gave. Not white. I can't even say white. They're excited about their Irish heritage, their Italian heritage. They want their culture back. Okay, let's listen to this cat right here.
Say that at least here in Boston, so far, man, since the World Cup's been active, this has been so much goddamn fun. This whole city's just got a different feel to it right now. It's like a joyous, unified, kind of like magical international vibe. And it's like, if there's one negative thing about the World Cup, it's a net positive outside of one thing, and that's like, when is this city ever going to be this fun again? When? Don't get me wrong, it was fun when the Celtics won it in 2024. Like, that was phenomenal. Don't get me wrong, that was pretty great. But the World Cup's just different. The people it brings are different. It's like, I don't know, I'm kind of seeing like how great shit could be if we had.
I mean, what you're looking at right here is this is probably the first time some of these people have really just experienced, just Europeans coming over, and they get a chance to be around their own people. You understand what I'm saying? And they are just super excited. I mean, just imagine, like, they're inundated with people with their heritage. So we're not white, we're Scottish. We're not white, we're Irish. We're not white, we're Swedish. We're not white, we're Norwegian. You see what I'm saying? And this is what we're dealing with. You see what I'm saying? This is cool stuff. Let's keep listening.
Things like the World Cup more often that bring people into the city and give this whole area, the whole city of Boston, just a different life. It's like it gives it a different identity, a whole different feeling, man. I can't describe it. It's like it's unlike anything else. The World Cup is unlike anything else that you can experience from like a sport or like unification. It's better than the Olympics. It's better than everything. But it's like, when are we ever going to get this again? When is it going to be this fun again? This whole World Cup so far has definitely felt like one of those moments in time where it was like, at least here in Boston, I don't know about anywhere else.
I ain't mad at him. I'm not mad at him. I'm not mad at him at all. You see what I'm saying? But again,
around the country. But at least here in Boston, it's one of those like moments in time. It's almost like the good old, like that line from The Office that Ed Helms says, where it's like, I wish there was a way to know you were in the good old days while you're in them. And I think as we get older, we those nostalgic special moments in time.
You can look at this dude. This dude has a star. He's a twinkle in his eye. He is happy. You see what I'm saying? So look, white people, go become Irish again. Go become Scots people again. Go, you don't have to be white. What is white? There's no thing as white culture. What is white culture? Beer on Sunday? That's not white. Go be Irish. Go be Polish. Go be Scottish. You'll be better for it. You had your own history, your own religion, your own song history. You had all of this of your own, and you gave all that up to come over here and be white, whatever that is. Okay? I understand why Black Americans call ourselves white, because we were amalgamated people. We were forced over here on slave ships. We don't know who we are. You can trace your heritage back. You understand what I'm saying? This is what I need you to understand. This is, and again, in the context of you got a bunch of Latinos who want to be white, and white people want to be who they were.
For real.
Listen,
Until they became white.
Listen to this fella. If I get this to play for you guys, I want you to hear what this young fella has to say. Very interesting.
White. For the 1700s, bro, niggas wasn't white, okay? Niggas was Scots. Before y'all niggas joined the fucking KKK, y'all niggas was actually Klansmen. Like a person with the actual homeland and lineage. Your value, your identity, your sense of self was much deeper than fucking a color or a racial category or your bank account. I was real niggas for a second, bro. Y'all had obligation to y'all kin, bro.
Excuse his use of the N-word, but you know, he's trying to be relatable.
Just for a little second, bro, y'all had real nigga in y'all. Was maintaining the land and shit. It's like, kudos to y'all. See, all this cool shit, bro, was too much for whiteness, okay? It was too much for capitalism. So it had to be completely dismantled. Like, again, all this cool shit, loyalty to family, loyalty to land, like, this shit is not what empire needs. Thus comes the Jacobite uprising. Now, I'm gonna have to make a whole video on these alone. These were like dynastic family.
He's basically just going to explain that white people realized when they got to America, they had to unify on their whiteness because they were outnumbered. Okay, that's what he's saying. Now, I got, and I'm just proving a point here. This dude right here got all the white people wanting to get back in contact with their European roots, and I like this. Listen to this guy. Okay, this dude right here. This is the blackest looking white dude. Have y'all seen this dude? Y'all know who this Erling Haaland guy is? I want y'all to take
the Nordic Bronze Age and the Vendel period. The Nordic Bronze Age, occurring from around 2000 BC to 500 BC, was a time marked by exceptional material wealth, societal development, militarization, and most importantly, trade. The Nordics were particularly intertwined with Mycenae and Greece culturally, and their goods made it as far as Egypt. You may have also noticed something: boats, battle axes, and horned helmets. Reductively, it may be fair to call them Bronze Age Vikings. In fact, the myth of Vikings wearing horned helmets most likely comes from these much older bronze helmets. For some reason, Bronze Age sea raiders seem to be fascinated with horned helmets, as we see with the Shurden, one of the sea peoples as well. On their longer axes, I can only find them referred to as halberds. I'll admit that this stumps me, as I thought the defining feature of a halberd was that it had both an axe.
So I'm gonna say that he's going into the, but I mean, here's the thing. Basically, white people are delineating from whiteness. They're delineating from this amorphous, ambiguous, we're white to, you know, no, I'm Italian, I'm Irish, I'm Scots, I'm Norwegian. My people are from Poland. And I think that's pretty cool. And I say all that to say, you guys could do, and look, shout out to the white folks, man. I mean, again, embrace your heritage, embrace your culture, get back to who he is. But again, what my whole point for this broadcast is that, you know, you got white Latinos racing towards whiteness, okay? And you got white Americans moving in the opposite direction. They're trying to recover their European identities and their ancestors that their ancestors surrendered in order to become white. They're rediscovering that they were not originally one undifferentiated group of people. They were Norwegian, they were Swedish, they were Danish, they were German, They were Irish, they were Scots, they were Welsh, they were English, they were Polish, they were Italian, they were Greek, Serbian, Croatian, they were from the Czech Republic, they were French, they were Dutch, and many other distinct European peoples with their own language and religious traditions and cuisines and family systems and music and dances and literature and mythology and customs and ways of understanding the world. Whiteness flattened those differences into one political identity. These people are as diverse ethnically as anybody else, okay? Politically, they're identified as white, but it gave Europeans this collective power within the American racial system, but that price of admission was cultural amnesia or cultural annihilation or assimilation. People who arrived in America as Italians and Irish and Germans and Poles, Greeks, Scandinavians, they gradually became simply white. Their children lost languages, their grandchildren lost traditions, and their descendants forgot villages and songs and rituals and family histories and regional identities. They gained access to an American racial category that puts them in a higher social caste, but they lost contact with the cultures that made their ancestors actual people. You understand? And that's why we now see a growing interest in genealogy, ancestral DNA, European national teams, old family recipes, Celtic festivals, Italian cultural societies, Polish heritage organizations, Nordic mythology, German traditions, and travel to their ancestral homelands. Many Europeans descended Americans are beginning to realize that this white thing is not an ethnicity or nationality or a language, homeland or religion or culture. Norway, Sweden, Ireland, Italy, Poland, Greece, Scotland, Germany, those are places with cultures. White does not have culture. Whiteness is a political classification created to organize power inside of an American racial caste system. And my question to y'all, was it worth it? You understand? Here, let me hit you in the crawl. Even the religious history proves the point. Christianity is not a European religion. It didn't originate in Europe. It arose from a Jewish religious tradition in the Middle East. And then it later spread into Africa and then went to Europe. Before Christianity, Europeans followed different religious systems. They were the Norse people. They worshiped Odin, Thor, Freya, and other gods, the Aesir gods. The Greeks worshiped Zeus, Athena, Apollo, and Hera. The Romans worshiped Jupiter, Juno, Mars, Saturn. The Celtics and the Germanic peoples, they maintain their own rituals and sacred sites and story and deities. These were distinct people, not one big white race with some unified culture. Whiteness brought them together politically, primarily by placing them collectively above Black people and brown people and red people and Asian people. But that unity often required them to surrender the ethnic differences that made them culturally rich. Was it worth it? Was it worth it? All the white people in the audience that are looking, was it worth it? And see, that cultural loss explains why Black American culture has been co-opted so aggressively by white people, or white Americans, I should say. Foundational Black Americans were denied the ability to preserve intact African national identities because slavery separated our ancestors from languages, regions, names, kinship systems, and established religion. We had our own religious system too, African spirituality. So guess what we did? We created a people here. We created music here, religious traditions, cuisine, language, humor, fashion, dance, political movements, educational institutions, churches, fraternities, sororities, social customs, and entire ways of interpreting American life. We didn't simply inherit culture. We built one under pressure. And that's why Black American culture is American culture. And that's why it remains so attractive. It's alive, it's recognizable, it's emotionally expressive, it's rooted in struggle, and it's filled with rhythm and humor and language and style and memory, pain, resistance, and triumph. It is uniquely American. People who abandon much of their own ancestral identity, i.e. white Americans, often look toward Black Americans for cultural energy. That's why the hip hop, the rock and roll, what we eat. Y'all not eating what they eat in Ireland. And so you're left to imitate our speech. When you want to be cool, you talk like a Black dude. You wear our fashion, you copy our dances and consume our music and adopt our attitude and profit from our inventions. And sometimes you resent the people who created them. And so my advice to European descendant America is very simple. Recover your own heritage. It's rich. It's thousands of years old. Learn the language your grandparents stopped speaking. Study the village your family came from and learn the music, food, literature, folk traditions, religious history of your actual people. Become Irish again. Become Polish again. Become Italian again. Become Swedish and German or whatever your ancestors were before America reduced them to a color. You'll be culturally richer for it. But again, that brings me back to these white Latinos, because while European descendant Americans are beginning to question the value of whiteness, you got white Latinos who are running behind them trying to pick it up. You trying to pick up their trash. Somebody type trash man in the chat room. White Latinos are running behind white folk trying to pick up that. They're treating whiteness like a valuable inheritance when it's increasingly becoming abandoned property. They're picking up leftover trash. They're picking up leftover trash that has failed. They're not inheriting a living culture. They're trying to inherit the remains of a political category whose original beneficiaries are increasingly uncomfortable defending itself. This whiteness thing is covered in blood. That's what you need to understand. Who wants to grow up in that legacy? You got white kids that don't even want to hear about white American history because it makes them feel bad. They won't even teach it anymore. Think about that. Why would a child want to embrace that? You wonder why you got so many white folk running away from their own history? Why they can't embrace it? Look at the blood on their hands. If you white American, that means you're responsible for slavery. You're responsible for the atrocities against the Native Americans. Hell, the Eastern Europeans didn't have anything to do with that. They weren't involved in the slave trade. We always try to, and I don't want to go off on a tangent, it was the British and the Spanish, largely. And the Portuguese were involved, and the Polish didn't have a damn thing to do with that. The Polish, what did we do? The Germans wasn't even German. It was no Germany. It was just a bunch of little enclaves. Hell, the British colonized the Irish. The Irish didn't have anything to do with slavery, but they fall into the category of white Americans, so now they all get lumped in the same category, colonizing. But most of these European countries didn't even colonize anybody. Think about that. So when you say colonizer, you're really talking about largely Great Britain. Shout out to all the Brits. You call about England. You see? So when we put all white people in the same category as colonized, the Czechs didn't have anything. The Romanians did. Hell, they were getting whooped on too. All white people are not equal. Greeks didn't do it. The Romans didn't do it. The Czechs didn't do it. I want you to understand that. Okay? But when you say I'm white American, you inherently, you instantly get that blood on your hands. And that's why you see a lot of European Americans, white people, saying, nah, I'm not going to be white. I'm going to go be a Scandinavian. I'm going to be Norwegian. My grandma was from Sweden, passed me some little wooden shoes. Now, if European descendant Americans are retreating from that generic whiteness and they're rediscovering their heritage, be it Irish, Italian, German, Polish, Scottish, Scandinavian, and whatever other ethnic identities. What exactly do Latinos believe they're gaining by chasing that discarded shell? They're attempting to inherit the identity without possessing the institutions that made it powerful. They don't automatically control the centuries-old universities and banks and churches and political families and law firms and neighborhoods and media companies and foundation corporations and inherited networks that converted Anglo-American identity into power. You don't have that here. Checking white on a government form does not make you the fourth generation owner of a law firm or the fifth generation owner of a bank system. It doesn't transfer ownership of this Anglo-American establishment to you. A racial classification is not an inheritance. A census box is not political power. A lighter complexion is not institutional ownership. And anti-blackness is not going to give you a deed to the United States of America. And that's why chasing whiteness is such a dangerous substitute for building durable power. Political acceptance can be withdrawn. Immigration status can be changed. Citizenship can be questioned. History can be minimized, and contributions can be erased. A person can be treated as white when the government wants to deny minority protection and treated as Mexican when the government wants to raid your community. Somebody type ICE in the chat room. You are white when the system doesn't want to acknowledge discrimination against you and Mexicans when the system wants you gone. And that is the trick and the manipulation, and no amount of anti-black rhetoric is going to change that. The United States developed through an Anglo-American political framework, but foundational Black Americans were present from the beginning, and we are an indispensable part of America, its labor force, the economy, its population, its military history, its political conflict, and its constitutional development of the country. We have always been patriots. We are only loyal to this country. This is our country. We were here before the Constitution. The 14th Amendment, we were here before that. We were here before many of the immigrant groups who are now negotiating their place in this nation. We were here before you. We were Americans before America was willing to recognize us as citizens. That's why Black American history is not some optional minority chapter added on to the American story. It's the American story. Our enslavement shaped the Constitution. Our labor generated national wealth. Our resistance produced constitutional amendments. Our lawsuits transformed civil rights. Our military service defended the country. Our music and language became American, and our political struggle expanded the citizenship and equal protection for every group that came afterward. Look, and I ain't gonna hold y'all. When you got these newly empowered groups, they imagine they can gain permanent American acceptance by disrespecting Black Americans. They misunderstand the country that they're trying to join. They're not attacking a recently arrived population standing outside the American story. They're attacking one of the peoples, one of the historic peoples, one of the heritage Americans, the foundational Black heritage Americans. You're attacking one of the peoples who built the story, man. And that's why that strategy is doomed. America periodically reminds Latinos and Asians and everybody else that their acceptance is conditional. And a lot of you all respond by attacking Black people. You got Black fatigue when ICE start cracking down on you more. Notice that? Notice how those things rose at the same time? So America cracks down on you and you try to come for Black people. In an effort to prove that you deserve whiteness, you see? And at the same time, you got many European descended people who are trying to imitate or abandon that generic whiteness because there's too much blood in the ledger. They want to rediscover their cultural ancestral roots that they lost or gave up. They're chasing something that has never fully protected them, using anti-blackness as their application, while the people who originally benefited from that identity are walking away from it. That's not progress or advancement or power. It's running toward a house that's on fire, right? And you see other people running out of it. Shout out to Bango Wolf. Their future is not going to be secured by pretending that they're white Americans and trying to erase the Afro-Latinos and attacking foundational Black Americans and chasing lighter skin and seeking European approval or pursuing access to some political category that can be withdrawn whenever the country needs another deportation campaign. The durable power comes from building institutions like we did. That's what our HBCUs are for. That's what our historically Black colleges have done for us. That's what our Black churches and religious institutions have done for us. That's what our Black neighborhoods have done for us. Institutions. You all don't have institutions. Black people have institutions. White people have institutions. You all don't. The Asians don't have institutions. The Hindus don't have. They try to build a temple up in Frisco, Texas. We changed the law to get the Hindu temple taken down. You see what they're doing to them? Foundational Black Americans don't have to chase an American identity because we are part of the foundation upon which American identity was built. We don't need to become white. We never fought to become white. Latinos fought to become white. We fought to make them accept us how we are. We were already American. We fought for our citizenship. That's what Brown versus the Board of Education was. That's the difference between the Mendez versus Westminster case. We were here. We were built here. We were made here. We fought here. We bled and died here. No matter who arrives, no matter what box they check, no matter what political identity they pursue, or how desperately they chase acceptance into whiteness, the Central American story will continue to run through the people whose labor, resistance, constitutional struggle, and cultural genius helped create this nation. You may become a citizen. You may receive a racial classification or achieve economic success. Kudos for you. But you can never, ever, 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 ever erase the people who made the country possible, and you will never secure your place in America by attacking Black people who struggle open the door for you to be here in the first place. This is Uncle D, and may I always say at this time, God bless y'all, and I'm out.
Dennis Spurling Podcast. Hit the like button, subscribe.